La 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 la. Yeah, how about that for some singing? Hey, it's Thursday. It's July the 3rd. That means tomorrow it's the 4th of July. That's something to talk about later on the show. But what we're going to talk about now is not much because it's a very sunny, summery day. This is Paul English Live, episode 94. Welcome to the show. As we here in England bask in a heat wave, hopefully you'll be basking in a wave of hot debate and topic and spirited discussions and all that kind of stuff here on this rather beautiful Thursday evening. Hi everybody. These weeks, do they last a week? It's just ridiculously quick. It's got sillily quick. I got a phone call from my brother a little bit earlier today. He called me up to complain about the length of his week too. They just don't last as long. They used to be really well made back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. The week was very well made out of stout timbers, very durable, easy to maintain and lasted a long time. Now look at it. It's all plastic and crap and wears out after about 10 minutes. And Thursday just rolls round all the time, which must mean that it's time for Eric von Essex to roll around too. And so, good evening, Eric. Welcome to the show. How are you on this fine, beautiful evening, I'm assuming?
I'm jolly beezer and very spiffing, so there we go.
Jolly beezer.
You know, it's a spiffing evening, isn't it? Yes, that's it. And it's wacko. And what was the other one? Wizard Prang. That's another one.
It's Wizard Prang. It's Topo. And it's really rather. It's a bit of a perler. It's just absolutely everything about it. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
I think it's the best weather I can remember since the last lot of best weather I remember. It's been fab.
That's right.
Yeah, really has.
It certainly has. And nice bicycle weather as well if you're into cycling. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm enjoying every minute of it. But it's going to wee down apparently over the weekend.
Is it really?
But not where we are. It's going to be a bit cloudy. Yes.
Well, that's okay.
Where you are and I am, it's making the misses. But
yeah.
It's like the Gobi Desert where I am. But I'm not complaining. I just love summer. And I'd like to go to a nice warm part of the world in winter. I don't like English winters very much. How about you? Are you into English winters or?
No, not really. No, I'm not really into English winters at all, actually. Oh, good grief. Hang on just a minute, Eric. We've got one of these little glitches where Rumble has betrayed me. Just a minute. And I wonder if YouTube's betrayed me. Yeah, it's not going out to the...
Let's have a quick look.
It's not on... Oh, let's have a look. Hi to everybody on YouTube. I think we're going out okay on YouTube, so I'm pretty sure that's okay.
It must be on Rumble because we've had Mark Anthony 72 has said good evening.
All right.
So he must be hearing us.
All right, okay. Let me just put a little message in. Hi, are we coming through A-OK, ? Or something like that. Yeah, so hi, quick shout out to everybody. So welcome everybody on Rumble and welcome everybody on YouTube. Cool, thanks XO and good evening Mark Anthony, and we'll be paying lots of close attention to you this evening. We'll be sending you questionnaires after the show, but great that you're in here right at the start of things.
Marvelous.
And of course today's image, Eric, is what I do every summer. I dress up in old-fashioned English costumes and I dance around things. Do you do that sort of thing?
Of course, yes. And my case comes up next week. No, my neighbours think I'm a bit of a nutter. Yes, I'm a bit of a nutter. Maybe a little eccentric.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean, but me, eccentric, never.
No.
I mean, why should anybody call me eccentric? I'm normal. Everybody else is eccentric. That's the problem, you know. But anyway, we can always rely on Mark Anthony to give us a nice feedback, and EXO in chat. So thanks, mates. They do that on my show. They do it on your show. Brilliant.
Yeah,
much appreciated.
All comments much appreciated. I mean, I have to tell you, I've had such a whack of a week. What do I mean by that? I've been full on this week, Eric. Really, absolutely flat out with lots of technical trouser challenges. That's just a euphemism, really. For I've just been working over hot servers, moving websites, rearranging mail servers. Gosh, this sounds tedious, doesn't it? It really is, to be quite honest. I mean, when I first started doing this about 20 years ago, it's
mail servers
and mail server. Yeah. Oh, steady on.
Yes,
No, this is not.
I would actually reword that. Actually,
good grief! I'd never even spotted that, but your wonderfully perverted mind picked it up almost instantaneously. Yeah, I've been working with these mail servers. Steady on, old chap. Yeah, we don't want any of that kind of palaver going on around here. Yeah, absolutely. So, no, they're like they're sort of an arcane jiggery pokery thing, and they drive me bug batty. But once they're set up, they generally don't fall over and stuff. But although I'm sorry, this is not really sort of world-shattering news, but it's news from me. And I have a server. I've got a few servers that I have to run to manage radio stations and this show because it streams out to WBN. And a big shout out to everybody on WBN 324. We're here every Thursday, 3 o'clock till 5 o'clock Eastern, 8 till 10 here in the UK. So good to have you along and to be there on the network. But yeah, I've just had a bit of a technical week, Eric. So I had to, the old server that I had literally became inaccessible for reasons which I probably could have found out. But I thought it's going to take me a week to read all these manuals. Why not just move all the sites, which I still could do, and set up a new server, which sounds awfully posh and grand. I mean, it's the bread and butter of internet stuff. And I'm still sort of particularly keen. I know we're going out here over Rumble and YouTube whilst we still can. And this show's not too contentious. I mean, we could do a contentious show if we wanted to and possibly do things that might lose the channel. I can certainly talk about those things and have done in the past. But I don't mind using them. However, I'm still of the view, really, that long-term the future is to kind of still have our own networks, which makes me, I suppose, a bit of a kind of, I don't know.
Agree.
Do you know what I mean? What do you think about it? I mean,
we won't get shadow banned. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I've had, I'm guessing, I think it must be about 20 of my videos taken down by YouTube, and I've been banned 5 times. Right. And it is soul destroying because you've got nobody to speak to, and it's a machine, I believe, that does it. It's all, I don't think people sit there, but it might be a word that you said out a place or something like that. Yeah. But I've had guests that have said things that probably would not be that are censored by YouTube. I mean, they are the hottest for censorship. But why? I mean, what my guests have said is perfectly acceptable. Children could hear it and it'd be perfectly okay. Yeah. So what is it that adults cannot listen to, which is so terrible that they have to remove my videos? It's but to me, censorship is the last bastion of tyrants. But I've got a question for our audience tonight. And this is a question from before we went on air. Can anybody in anywhere in the world name a government that's been any cop and has worked for the people? I can think of 2, maybe 3, but not in this country. So anybody can think of any governments that have actually worked for the people and not for the usury scammers. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? I can think of 3 governments that have worked for the people.
Yeah.
Go on. But in the past.
Which 3?
And all 3 leaders. 3, right. Number 1, Mr.
No, start off at third. Who's third? Come on, build it up like Top of the Pops. So in at third. What's the...
Okay, third. Yeah. It's I would say Saddam Hussein. He worked for the people. Second, it's Gaddafi. And now
I don't think this is making for
good
radio.
Number 1,
we need a band.
It's Adolf Hitler. Yes, he comes in at number 1 because between 1933 and 1938, say 1939, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, for about 5 to 6 years, he did work for the people of Germany. And people weren't actually dying of starvation as they were prior to 1933.
Yep.
And that type of thing. So, but all three did exactly the same. Banned usury. That's it. That's the elephant in the room.
Who did you have in at number 2? I was so busy
about.
singing songs, I didn't hear what you said because I'm a very rude host.
Gaddafi.
Right. Gaddafi Duck.
I'm ruder. No, I'm definitely Gaddafi Duck, yes.
Yeah.
So as Saddam. Oh, hang on. We've also got the bloke in Syria. I don't know much about him, though. What was his name now? I can't remember. Do you know? Remember him?
Syria.
I think he's living in Russia now. He's legged it, hasn't he?
Bashat. Was it? Is it Bashat?
Bashat. Oh, Bashat. That's old Basher, isn't it? Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Yeah.
He was the eye surgeon in. He spoke English, didn't he? And his wife was English, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah. And I don't know much about him, though, so I can't really mention him because I'm a little bit ignorant of what happened in Syria. But I have heard good things because they reckon that Syria was less Arab than all the other countries in that part of the world. They are more European.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
Well, can I give you 3 good
Romanov's
ones?
rule.
Let's see if I give you 3 good ones, right? These are not necessarily prime ministers because so when did governments sort of kick off over here? When over here it's after Charles got his head chopped off. Is that right? Really? It was all kings up to that point. Is that right?
I think so, yes. Yes.
And then we've been a hybrid ever since then. I mean, they wiped the monarchy out everywhere else over Europe, but they kept the one here, I don't know, probably for cosmetic and purposes. Actually, there were all sorts of, in a weird way, because they couldn't placate parts of Scotland, they didn't finish it off, and they perfected the model of wrecking a Western nation when they reran the whole thing again. But this time in the French Revolution, and this time what they did was they supplied guillotines and they chopped people's heads off, and this stopped the monarchy coming back because they didn't have any heads on. I'm obviously being slightly flippant about it, but if I rock back in my mind to think about, say, 3 other noteworthies, and reconciliation. Good evening, Patrick. I think that's you under your name. So we've blown your cover, mate. It's terrible. Completely blown it.
I know.
He mentions Tsar Nicholas.
But for a few fock bobs, we'll keep it quiet.
Yeah.
What about that one? A few fock bobs,
Yeah, a few we'll keep it quiet. Although we've blown it now. It's terrible, and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
He puts Tsar Nicholas. Tsar Nicholas. Is it the second? It must have been. I think it was.
Good point.
Now, he was jolly good.
The one that got...
yeah.
What, the one that got... the one that got
1917. He got 1917, him and all his family. Yeah, he was a fantastic guy, top bloke. Really understood what was going on, but just didn't have enough, needed his Ironsides. Cromwell, at least, that's one thing that Cromwell got right. And Tsar Nicholas just had men close to him effectively betray him, and of course didn't realise how deep the rot had got. But he was loved by his by the great peasants, and as I should say, and as you can see in the picture, good evening, happy, merry, pleasant fellow peasants, because that's really what we're perky peasants. I was thinking today. I'm always looking for alliteration because I'm just sad like that, and I've got a lot of dictionaries, and I just feel like because I paid all the money for the dictionaries, I ought to read them every now and again. You know what I mean? It's like a waste of money, but so Tsar Nicholas. I like him. He's in. He's a good one. Now, the other one I'm going to pick is...
a good one, yeah.
He's a good one. Of course, I only really know all the English ones, of course. So I'm going to say... Ooh, which should I pick? I'd have to say... It's a bit like Mona, isn't it? And Derek and Clive. I'd have to say, of the 3, the next one I'd probably pick would be Edward I, I think. Now, I know if you're a Scot, that's a terrible thing for me to say. Yeah, Edward I. And the reason Edward I, Longshanks, 6'2", in the 1280s.
Yes,
right?
Longshanks.
Big lad.
Yes.
Right, and I know he's portrayed hellishly vile in Braveheart, and rightly so. These were vicious times, of course. People were not particularly kindly with the other side, because they all wanted to be in control, so it's pretty bad. But he did actually sort out an awful lot of stuff. He came into a very troubled land and he sorted a great deal of stuff. And of course, he's responsible for an expulsion of a certain group of people, the statute for which is still sitting on the books. So if anybody wants to dust that off, and I think we need a few more statutes or Edward I type statutes like that for the expulsions of several groups of people, including the originating one. Expulsion may seem a little bit harsh, but what's happening to us is more than harsh. And therefore, I think it's actually, it would be a thing that could diffuse the situation, he said pathetically, because, of course, it wouldn't do that at all. It would ramp it up. So that's it. And then number one for me, I suppose, even though I still don't know enough about him, but I've just got this phenomenally positive impression about him, is literally Alfred, who literally was great. And so Alfred the Great would come in as my... But we're talking over 1,000 years ago now. So I never met the lad. Did you ever meet him? Was he still knocking around in your neck of the woods when you were a lad? I never met him.
Well, he's let himself go a bit recently. That's the thing. But back to Tsar Nicholas. Did I ever tell you my granddad got dragged off by the Bolsheviks? It certainly made his eyes water. It really did. He was never the same again. Yeah.
Right.
But no, actually, you picked some good ones there. Yes. Sorry. I
well, there are. I think we can say positive things about a lot of our guys, Eric. There's a lot. I think the other thing as well, we're in the comfortable position of being able to be hypercritical about people in the past. And we've got more information to be hypercritical about them than we've ever had, for those of us that have jumped around and splashed around in all that information. So it's not as if any of them were perfect, but it's difficult to know just exactly what they were dealing with, all the time. And we've got reports of it and stuff like that. But yeah, those guys were good, and I can pick loads of others. Someone was talking to me the other day about Nelson. We're talking about good people. Nelson was a complete nutter, really. If you look at the Battle of Trafalgar and stuff, I mean, the guy was just off the charts. All of these things, and when you were told about battles in the past, I don't want to make this all about a battle show, although we can drift any way you like, really. And I just want to say to everybody in YouTube and Rumble, it's me and Eric for tonight. We did have someone lined up. It's not quite happening tonight. We've got a nice guest on next week. Well, he might be nice. It all depends whether he's a bit drunk when he turns up. He will be drunk. I'm just winding and teasing. I'm teasing you. And I'm also talking to some other cracking people. It's just taking a little bit longer to roll them into my clutches, as it were, and to get things organised. But if you've got any suggestions for things that you want me and Eric to talk about over the next couple of hours, because we're unlikely to run for 3 hours. I really am whacked today, although probably I'll change my mind after 2 hours. I've done this about twice before when I think it's going to be the 2 hour show as opposed to overrun. So we'll just see how it goes. But if you've got any ideas or suggestions, or you want to prompts,
what about?
What
about? I can't remember what number he was. It was Edward after Victoria. Now, no, Dirty Bertie. I don't know. Was he the 9th? I don't know. But anyway, him apparently they reckon he was bumped off because he was trying to sort out Parliament, because Parliament would be getting a bit too big for their boots, and he didn't like the corruption. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. Do you know anything more about that? Anybody
son? Is that Queen Victoria's son?
Yeah, a Dirty Bertie.
Oh, yeah, he was a
Dirty
bit...
Bertie.
He had a bit too much lasciviousness in his bloodline, didn't he? He was known for his carnal pleasures, wasn't he? Something like that. Yeah.
He liked going to France a lot, apparently. And
is that a euphemism for something? It is, obviously, isn't it? Yeah.
He
likes to go to France.
Someone said in the letter.
Well, tonight's theme is actually smut. What a surprise! Tonight's theme. Only take us.
Well, so often he didn't know whether he's coming or going, most of the time. But there we go.
More tea, Vicar. Yeah. So,
but Patrick reckons Pope Pius IX. Now, was he the bloke around during World War II? Pope Pius IX?
Well, if he's the one that kicked off the Crusades, I'm with Patrick, but I don't know if he is. So Patrick will probably step in and let us know. I think that was Pope Pius, wasn't it? No, I probably got it wrong. I don't know me popes very well. I'm English, Patrick. We don't know popes. We get quite cross with them, as you well know. We think they're all a bit silly. But if it's any sort of what's the word? consolation, that's the word. We think the same of most of the heads of the Church of England too, you see. So, well, I do anyway. I'm sort of,
That's right.
they all worry me like Billy-O. We could talk some church and religion stuff. I've been reading a lot of stuff on that recently. We move it around. But what I was just going to reinforce the offer out to anybody that's either on YouTube or on Rumble. If you want to pitch in on the show, you want to just call up, bend our ear about anything at all. I'm just going to try and push this a little bit tonight. Don't worry, we won't be upset if nobody calls in. Yeah. We know. But if you want to, you can. And if you're on the Tinternet, and I'm assuming that because you're viewing us on Rumble and YouTube, you are probably on a PC, maybe on your mobile, it doesn't matter. You can come into the studio here directly where we are. We can get about another 2 or 3 voices in, and we can line you up and bring you in. And you go to paulenglishlive.com/call. paulenglishlive.com/CALL, and it'll bring you in. I'm actually looking at it because I've got it on the screen this week, and we've already had guest 2 rocked up. Maybe that was Patrick a bit earlier, and I missed it because I was too busy banging on about something. But I'm just looking at the screen now. So if any of you get the urge to come in, bend it away. We're sort of a bit freeform tonight for all sorts of reasons. I've just been flat out, as I said, tending servers, and I only finished at about 4 o'clock today because... and I was up most of the night last night doing it. Well, I got about 3 hours sleep last night, so I'm a bit sort of pooped out, you know. and that's really why it's the way it is today. But it won't be a problem because Eric's mind and my mind are just full of so much. Well, Eric's so much lavatorial humour that we were 2 hours wouldn't be long enough.
Well, Exo reckons that Edward the Eighth met Mr. H before World War II, which would have been a bit difficult because I think he was killed about 1911, and Mr. H wasn't famous at that point. I think he was living in poverty in 1911. So, know any more about that, Exo?
So, Evening Billy Silber, who's just joined the chat on Rumble. Hi, and also shout out to Brad Springgate. That's difficult to say, Brad. Brad Springgate. That is a bit of a tongue twister. So Brad Springgate. It can't be 2 Brads, surely. I quite like it. And Sue Sparkle. What a nice name. Sue Sparkle. I like that. So evening, Sue and Brad, and everybody that's tuning in.
Oh, Sue. Hello, Sue.
Oh, right. Oh, old
yes,
mucker of yours.
Hello,
you know Sue, do you? You know Sue well, I see. It's like that, is it? That's
hello,
good.
Sue, yeah. She must be on YouTube. Because I'm only looking at Rumble at the moment. So,
right, okay.
Hello, YouTube.
Yeah.
That's a bit. I thought, where these people come from? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now that's interesting because there is a way you can get both chat rooms onto one, isn't there? I believe.
Yes, I'm actually looking at them both on one tab right now. I'm using. We can go through all this boring stuff afterwards, but for anybody that wants to do Opera, I've got this cool little. Maybe the older browsers have got it now. I just stumble across things. I've just been using Opera for years. I think it's been taken over by the Chinese, so it's probably a massive spying thing. But I'm so exhausted defending myself. They're just going to overwhelm us with spying on you as you try to defend them. But you can drag 2 web pages together into one tab. And so what I've done is I've got both of the chats on one screen, and I'm looking at both, and it means that I can type in both practically or copy and paste really quickly. When you tell me a joke, Eric, that I might have heard before. No, you won't do that. It's absolutely fine. So I'm just typing away.
It's too smutty.
I can't listen to that. This is a family show.
It's a bit bloody smutty.
It's a bit smutty.
Innuendos, because well, the trouble is, most people think an innuendo is a Italian suppository, don't they? That's the trouble. But
well, yes, yeah, did they? Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What can we entice people on air with? What a free raspberry of a politician of their choice? That's what I usually entice people on with.
Actually, you've said that magical word. You've said that magical word, Eric.
Yes.
Politician, which has now become an inexhaustible supply of laughter, mockery, shame, humour, ineptitude, inefficiency, adolescent mental attitudes. Now, everybody, has everybody seen is it Rachel? Is that her name? In accounts, crying in the House
Rachel
of Commons earlier this week. Yeah. What is that all about? I mean, really, seriously, what is that all about? What is going on? Well, at first I thought, well, we're supposed to see this. Obviously, we're supposed to see this. Well, are they so desperate now that they're going for, look, you go out there and cry a bit and we'll maybe get people's heartstrings, anything to get their attention or some sympathy on our side. And then it turns out she was a director of the Bank of England or something, wasn't she?
No, I think she's only a junior. I don't think she's director, because the director of the Bank of England is actually the Prime Minister of this country, isn't he? He's the bloke who rules things. Not Starmer.
Sort of, yeah. He's the sort of he's the guy that takes the orders from the people that do rule things. But his job, he runs the country because he'll never tell you who those guys are that are giving him his orders, and then he gives his orders to the government, and then the government pretends that it's their orders, and then they start crying on TV because they can't do anything. It's quite sad, really. But Nigel's going to save us, apparently. Apparently, Nigel's going to save us. I saw some. Yeah, apparently,
is he?
Apparently, he just is. Everybody tells me that Reform are going to save the day, even though he's not going to save the day. I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that he's not going to do anything of the sort because he wouldn't be able to. But he's come up with some new wacky. I don't know if anybody out there's seen it in chat. Some new wacky idea about buying British citizenship. I think it's that. Something absolutely deranged. Deranged.
Well, let's face it, he is. And he's one of these false prophets. He's a Pied Piper. And Pied Pipers are one a penny, two a penny. They just lead a group of people, a bit like Tommy Trousers from Luton, lead people into a cul-de-sac and go nowhere. But does anybody... What do people think of Rupert Lowe of Restore Britain? Because according to Godfrey Bloom, he doesn't rate him very highly. I keep an open mind, but if you see Mr. Rupert Lowe on mainstream media, then the warning lights start to flash, because nobody can get on mainstream media unless they are controlled opposition. So,
difficult to know.
What's your view?
I saw. I saw that. Can you hear me? Okay, Eric. We okay sound wise?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
All right,
I'm
cool,
okay.
cool.
Yeah, fine.
Sorry, I just thought we'd make a little jump there. Sonia Poulton. I'm not going to make a judgment either way. I know she's been around for quite a while and maybe done good stuff. It's not the sort of channel or person that I tend to follow much. I don't really follow anybody. I'm just reading too much of the time. But she interviewed Godfrey Bloom. Now, Godfrey Bloom, we played that. He's one of the few guys that's actually spoken truth in a public arena. And it was that clip that we played a few weeks back when we were just going through a whole sort of banking and law and usury thing, which, of course, I'm trying to not go back to as a default position 24/7. I find it very difficult, but I know it makes the show a little bit tedious if we just talk about it all the time. But Godfrey's the guy that stood up, I think it was 2013, and basically said, the problem is none of you understand how central banking works. And that's the understatement of the year, of the century. You see, the main problem is that you're trying to govern a nation, but you don't understand how banking works. So you can't govern it. I mean, it's just impossible. You cannot govern a nation if you don't understand how banking works. Anyway, she was interviewing him recently. It's quite a 29-minute... I've got a 29-minute thing. Maybe it's an extra. It's on Godfrey Bloom's official channel on YouTube for anybody that wants to look it up. Godfrey spelled Godfrey, Bloom Bloom. And he's got credentials and he's got skin in the game, as it were, and he understands banking. And he's also got a military background. So I think it's worth listening to him. He's an exuberant character, I find. I like the energy in his voice. It's tremendous. No doubt I won't agree with him on everything. But it was a very interesting interview because he mentioned... I mean, obviously they use the word Zionism. We'll stick with that. Anybody here that knows me knows that you can read between the lines and what we're really talking about, because it's wider than that for all sorts of reasons. I'm going to suggest they get hung up. Let's have an argument about this. Let's not. Let's just really nail it. But one of the things that he pointed out in the interview that was quite interesting, that I've watched 19 minutes of this 29 minutes. I haven't seen the last 10 minutes of it. I don't know, Kettle probably went off. I had to have a cup of tea. You know what it's like, Eric, these things. I'm so easily distracted, particularly when the kettle goes. But he talked about who they really were as a people. And this is happening now. A lot of this stuff has happened since this Iranian situation has blown up, and, what little sympathy that they may have had seems to have evaporated, although no doubt they'll work to get it back through, government diktat and all this, that, and the other. But he said some really pertinent truths, which people, I guess, around here and around other spaces I've been in for the last 10 or 15 years, we've been saying this stuff for a long time. These people are not the people of Scripture. They're not. And they're not even supposed to be there. And according to the narrative, God didn't leave the land to them because they're not them. And he mentions who they are. He says they're Canaanites. He didn't mention the word Edomite, but he should have, because that's actually the more important factor, I would suggest. But it's an admixture. And, of course, the other point to make, even though I can't quote it from Scripture right now, is according to the narrative, let me put it that way, it's best to phrase it that way as opposed to sort of adamant thing. According to the narrative, once out of that realm 2,000 years ago, they're never to return to it, ever. There's no reason to. It's over. It was finished. That was the end of a chapter. Gone. So the idea that they're running back and saying God gave this land to us is bizarre on several levels. First of all, he didn't give it to anybody after 2,000 years ago. That's the first thing. So you can't have it. And secondly, it's not you. And Godfrey, bless his cotton socks, basically brings this up, which is excellent. So, and you can see Sonia Poulton, she's not nervy about it. They're both talking in code language too. I think we've developed a kind of code where we can just leave silences in our speech. You know exactly what I mean, Eric, don't you? You leave a silence about, it's like you talking about people being antiseptic and stuff like that. We don't want to be accused of antisepticism and anti-semolinarism. It's a terrible thing. We don't want it. Well, you coined it. That's one of Eric's, all right? So it's quite right. We quite like that one.
Oh, yeah, she's anti-semolina, differently.
Oh, they're all anti-semolina down there, and that you don't want to go down there. No, they hate it. They hate the semolina. So that's the kind of world we live in. I thought it was a drain cleaner when I first heard. When I was young and I heard that term used, I thought it was some form of drain cleaner. Did you? Well, maybe you were closer to the truth than you originally thought. Maybe your instincts were spot on, Eric, with the whole thing. But it's good. Anyway, in that interview is where and I really don't know what his question is about, Rupert Lowe, just coming back to where you kicked it off a few minutes ago, because I saw, now I've mentioned here, just to let you know, I never voted for a political party in my life. I probably never will, unless I was forced to do it and it was a fascist dictatorship, in which case it would probably work. Someone with some absolute determination, because it's really what's needed. Everybody knows it, but no one dares say it. Or we need something absolutely ridiculously masculine and strong needs to come back in. And I think most people have become so incredibly weak and overly sensitive to things that they'd all end up, well, like Rachel Reeves, just crying about it. Well, you wouldn't be able to get anything done. You wouldn't be able to actually order anybody to do anything. You'd be all crying all the time. All the, no, we can't do. It's just, I mean, what words are you supposed to use? Pitiful is obviously true. It is. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. We don't. We've got these people, but Patrick has said, "Give Chris How do you pronounce his surname? Coghlan, Coghlan, MP, a raspberry, please." He is the Liberal Democrat MP for Dorking and Hawley. He is a UK politician. I've never heard of him before. His bishop excommunicated him. And what else did he do? And what now? I wonder why. Oh, yes, for supporting the abortion bill. Definitely. Okay. There we go. So that's a raspberry to. That's Chris Coghlan, MP. Yes. So he gets
Chris
a raspberry
Coghlan
from me.
I think that's how you pronounce it. Coghlan. Yeah.
Yes.
Chris Coghlan. Yeah, something like that.
And Billy Silver says, "Yeah, Eric, I thought the same about Lowe. Hesitated to contribute a comment there. But then anyway, surely anyone who thinks Parliament works for the public." Yes, this is the thing about places like the UK column. They do some very good documentaries, but they say, "Oh, write to your MP."
Yeah.
Writing to your MP is like writing to the mafia and asking them not to be cruel, isn't it? Really? I mean, it's so, I mean, what good does it make? None whatsoever. The MP is only there to look at why youths are urinating on the landing or to clean up the dog poo. That's about the only thing they can do.
Hmm. Well, I think I was listening to. Who was I listening? I was listening to Mike Graham earlier in the week or something. I don't know what he had on. I mean, if I could sort of had the time to record these things and get the clips out, some of these clips are great, and that's the stuff that takes all the time. I sound like a right moaning mini tonight, don't I? I just need a huge. I want us to have a huge team, Eric, doing all these things because it would help. We'd be able to really put even more extra vim in. As it is, we've just got to get by on our wonderful charm and personalities. But no, we get around on some other things. But the comment was being made. I think I'd said this a few weeks ago, really.
Right.
I'm not the only person to say it, that we are basically, we're smothered with politicians, but there aren't any statesmen. And there is a difference. And
Correct.
The politicians are what we've got. What is a politician? Someone who is out for his or herself, generally narcissistic, and they're just ambitious. This is it. They're ambitious. They want to be given the next title up the rung, whatever it may be. Oh, I'm this now. Or no, I'm that. Whether they qualify for it or not is irrelevant to them. They just want to angle and get that position. Whereas a statesman is someone who would, on points of honour and integrity, resign over it because they would have to say, I cannot go along with this decision because it's going to harm the people of the country that I represent. I can't do it. I'm completely out of kilter with the rest of my party. I'm going to lose the whip, which sounds like a good thing to me. It never sounded like a bad thing. Please stop whipping me. And although, of course, if you're a masochist, I guess it's a bad thing. But that's the kind of situation. We don't have many. And the point was being raised, that was it. Apart from someone else, they also really applied it, and it's true, with regard to Keir Starmer. And he's a politician, and he's a bad one. He's not even a good one. I mean, he's not coherent as a communicator. He's bizarrely crap. And I think also the fact that he's apparently sane, so we are supposed to, accept this, is really rather amazing that we've got a guy in here who's actually worse than Joe Biden. Can you believe that? He's worse. Biden had the excuse at least of having Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever it was that was going on, or at least that was his good cover story. Maybe he's canny. Maybe he's running around now and playing chess all day long and he's a wizard. I don't think so. But Starmer's worse because you see that actually there is some basic brain function going on in there, but it's so corrupted and perverted and useless. And he can't deal with spontaneous interaction. It's pathetic. It's like a kid's argument in a playground. Which are quite fun, actually. They can be fun. He's not even any fun.
But they are childish, though.
Yeah, they are.
But when you look at them, they are childish. I mean, it all seemed to change when Blair came in.
Yep.
And I've got a theory, and this is just my own personal theory. The generation that we got now, their parents and grandparents were from the hippie generation. What do you call it? The invention of the CIA, the hippies.
Yes.
And there is something about that generation, what they gave birth to, and that second generation. Now we've got the third generation, because the ones coming into power now, their grandparents were like the hippies, where they didn't smack their children, I can imagine people like Starmer being a right spoilt brat when he was a kid. Don't do that. I mean, there's a difference between pulling your hair and tearing lumps out of it. I don't believe in being aggressive to anybody, but sometimes a child needs to be reprimanded, which people have been doing since millennia.
Yep.
But now we've got this new idea where you don't. We've got spoilt brats, and that's clearly being seen in society generally. And people like Rachel Reeves of the Accounts Department and Starmer, I can guarantee they were spoilt brats, because when I was a kid, and I don't know, it's probably the same for you, Paul, I got a clout round the ear hole if I was a bit cheeky, and I wouldn't be cheeky again because I get another clout round the ear hole. that it
And
wasn't.
there comes a period
It was
when
a
it
kind
stops,
of little
doesn't
punishment.
it? Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
meant to be
that's right.
to hurt you. It's meant to knock a little bit of responsibility into you for your actions. That's really what I always thought it
Correct.
was. I only got one
Correct.
severe, devastating beating when I was a child. Not really. I only got one real clattering once. My dad was very, very good because his voice alone was usually enough, right? Maybe your dad. My dad could be very loud. I can be very loud. So when you're that much bigger and your father's much bigger than you and is very loud, it's intimidating, as it's supposed to be. And he didn't have to raise his voice often, but it's also to do with tone and all these sorts of things. And it's how you go, oh, there are limits to my behaviour. Yeah, there are limits to everybody's. Otherwise, it's going to be a nut down here. There are limits. This is why I've got this thing about people. I want to be free. I'm going, no, you don't. You don't really want to be free. You want order. You want to be creative. You need certain constraints so that you can wrestle against them. It's a bit like going in the gym. If nobody pushed against the resistance from the weight, you wouldn't build the muscles up. It's the same sort of thing, I think, with behaviour. I'm not arguing for slavery. It's a totally different argument I'm trying to make. I'm not talking about that. But you just need constraints. They really work. They force you to be creative with what you've got. And I think also there's always that sort of thinking in the head, oh, the grass is going to be always much greener on the other side of the hill. And after about 50 times of trying that, you go, oh, Mum, Dad were right. It isn't. It isn't, because you're always taking yourself with you, aren't you?
That's lost.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. But also, our parents were a similar age. My parents were similar age to your parents, and their parents were Victorian or Edwardian, and I was brought up Victorian strict, and I think that I got a clout around the ear hole from my mum, and of course I had an elder sister that used to give me a clout around the ear. And they say the gentle sex, oh no, if you got a clout around the ear from my sister, you certainly bloody knew it.
Yeah.
So I was, and my dad very rarely, but it was my mum that was more, don't do that, bash, take that, and probably a little bit too much sometimes. Well, I could say a lot about that, but I won't. But quite honestly, I think that I was told to, sit down. Children asleep should be seen and not heard. Always offer your seat to a lady. All these Victorian polite things that people, for example, I notice now on there's signs. I very rarely go on public transport. But you see signs, please give this seat up. This seat is for an elderly person. Give this seat up for a disabled person. You shouldn't have signs like that. Society should be that people in the Victorian times, that you never dream of having a sign like that. People would give their seat up for
I
the
think that's
elderly
a really
or
interesting
disabled
point
and things like that.
I think that's a really relevant point. You know that thing where you're being ordered to do something that you were already doing, and how damn irritating it is.
Yeah.
Who was I talking to about this the other day? I can't remember. It's like if you. Oh, I know who. I was talking to Maleficus offline about something, and he was in a strop about something. I think you'll recognise this. You know, if you want to sort of, I know. Say around birthday cards. This is a good one, right? So you're thinking. I mean, seems awfully trite, but it's the principle. Someone's birthday's coming up and you go, I'm going to send them a birthday card. But then someone starts to remind you to send it before you've done it. It makes me not want to send the birthday card. Does
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Right? Ring a bell? It's like, no, you don't get to tell me that. And I was thinking about it the other day and I thought, it's not just that. What it is you're about to enter a little moment where you're going to spontaneously give. And as soon as someone's said that you've got to do that, that experience of just out of nowhere giving something has been taken away from you. You can't actually do it anymore. They've kind of blocked it off. Yeah?
Spot on. Yeah.
They've taken away some of the natural sort of joy and interaction of life by saying, you must do this. This is it. You can't leave this. And I became because of it, I became terrible at sending birthday cards. It's probably because I'm just a callous, indifferent, uncaring sod, I suppose. I didn't mean any harm by it, but I used to just go, they go, oh, it's someone's birthday. So was it important? I mean, my son said, Dad, do you want any birthday cards? A happy Father's Day. I'm going, why? I don't even know. It's all right. Every day is Happy Father's Day when I've got. I mean that.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I don't need a day
Yeah.
for you to tell me. Does that mean all the other days were rubbish or something? So, yeah, that's. I think that runs deep
It's like
with
Christmas
people.
cards.
Yeah.
In the office, and I got a Christmas card from someone called Bleh, and it's just a line along the bottom. I thought, the bloody hell's Bleh? And all
I got a
was
card from them as well, Eric.
Yeah, and she was just getting cards, just putting put just doing a Bleh across it, and then what's the point? It's not given with any love, consideration. It's just a case of I've got to get Christmas cards out, so I just give them out. So you just got this sort of line along the bottom of the card.
Mm-hmm.
Why? It doesn't need it. But Nathan had a brilliant idea. You know what he did? He actually bought a box of Christmas cards.
Yeah.
And when he was about and he saw someone a little bit down or a bit, someone begging or something like that, he'd go over to them and just give them a Christmas card. And he said you'd see people's faces light up, complete stranger.
Mm-hmm.
They might be lonely, they might be on their own. He'd just say, "This is for you." Yeah, I thought that's a very nice thought, isn't it? Really, just give a complete stranger a Christmas card. Things like that. That's given with thought and love. Whereas when it's just sent in the office, why bother sending it if it's not given with thought or love or anything like that? So don't bother.
Hey, we've come a little bit away from the point I was trying to make as well. I have on Rupert Lowe. And just looking at the chat, by the way, shout outs, just a quick catch up on chat and everything. Over on Rumble chat. Completely agree, Gizzy51, but I can't say that on air, can I? Well, I could. I say that in the privacy of my own home all the time. Snigger, snigger, titter, titter, guffaw, guffaw. You know what I mean? But yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes. Spot on. The whole of the political establishment is riddled with those dysfunctional types. Yes, absolutely. And what was the other comment I was looking at there? Oh, yeah. There's one from...
Was it Mark Anthony, 72?
No, there's one from Exo that was addressed to you. He said, Eric's laugh makes me want to wash up the dishes. What does that mean? It means, Exo, that your dishes are dirty. That's what it means. It means you've got dirty dishes. And I ought to know because mine are dirty at times sometimes. Ooh, me dirty dishes. So there we go. I don't know what it means. He said, I hope it's not some Freudian stuff. It probably is, Exo. You need help. You need treatment. Go and find yourself a nice psychiatrist, my boy. They'll sort you out. They'll get into your head. What could possibly go wrong? So, yeah, that's quite good.
Well, psychiatrists need psychiatrists. Did you know that? Because when you look at psychiatrists, they look as if they need one.
Oh yeah, they do.
That's my view of psychiatrists.
No, it's that old joke. And anybody that wants to thinks they need a psychiatrist needs their head examining. I always thought that was really the joke. That was the joke for me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The wonderfully named Alice Gorgeous as well is in YouTube chat. So hi, Alice Gorgeous. It's a great surname. Wish I'd been born Paul Handsome, but I wasn't. What a pity. Eric Dashing, you could have been, Eric. Just think of the fantastic names we could have had. But that's great.
Well,
yeah.
I'd call my surname Darling. Because we'd say, "Oh, hello, darling." And if I had a dog and I lived by the coast, I'd call it Shark. And that'd be fun walking along the beach, wouldn't it?
Shark.
Summertime.
Shark.
Shark.
What was that? There was a little interaction in some comedy thing years ago. Man and woman. Darling. Yes, darling. Oh, nothing, darling. Just darling, darling. I always quite like that one. Does that make sense?
It was in Blackadder, wasn't it?
Was it darling? What
was
darling?
that scene?
Oh, nothing, darling. I'm just saying darling.
And,
yeah, he was darling, wasn't he? Darling. Yeah. Oh, I say that quite well, don't I? Anyway, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Eric, Alice Gorgeous, Eric, by the way, thinks that your laugh needs bottling. Alice, you'll be pleased to know that in the Fockham Hall laboratories, they've been working on this, but it's still taking them a little while. They've been at it for 8 years. And they're still missing some gubbins. They can sort of capture it, but they can't get it in the bottle. It sort of escapes by the time they're just about to put the cap on. It's tricky, isn't it? But we could sell it. Yeah. Bottled laugh.
Yeah. Bottled laughter. Well, I remember that years ago, I mean, my brother-in-law, he I mean, quite honestly, he often looked like, how can I explain it? he had that look a bit like Keir Starmer. You know what I mean? That sort of, I've
Rabbit
just
in the
discovered that farts shouldn't be lumpy. That sort of attitude. And he came over one Christmas. So I got an empty aerosol spray and put on the side of it party atmosphere and just spraying it around just to be sarcastic.
Hey, we could sell that. Fucking whole novelty gags. Come on, that's great. Have you got any?
Another one you used to be able to get.
Yeah, I could just see the ads now. This is a bit of a dull party. Don't worry, I've got something in my briefcase, darling. What's this? It's aerosol party atmosphere from Fockham Hall Laboratories. Turns any dull party into a riot. Yeah, that's what it is.
I bought from a joke shop once fart spray.
Oh, really, Eric? I'm surprised you thought of that. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I can't believe that you thought of a fart spray.
I know, it's disgusting, isn't it?
It's just out of the blue. You've never said anything
I tried
like
everything
that
to cheer the bastard
up. Oh, boy. Anyway,
I
listen to Paulie. It's a very
anything
serious
to cheer this
political
bastard
commentary
up,
show, this, It's very, very serious at times.
Yeah,
We're very serious about this stuff, aren't we, Eric? It's very, very serious.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was this point I was trying to make about Rupert Lowe and Godfrey Bloom? Oh, yeah. Godfrey Bloom had said something about him. I didn't quite understand it, that he was like all the others. That somehow I know that maybe he's getting funding from some kind of atypical arena. I don't know anything. I've got nothing factual to say, but he sort of implied that or said something. But I noticed on, I think it was it Monday? Where are we? Thursday? It's earlier this week, Monday or Tuesday, probably Monday. There's a thing called Restore Britain sprang up on Twitter, which Rupert Lowe obviously is behind all this. Now, I've mentioned that Rupert Lowe, to me, seems to be the only one that can at least communicate like a man. I'm quite serious about that. I mean, he talks like somebody who understands what responsible talk is. This is a start, right? Is it? I don't know. Maybe it's just another cul-de-sac, another sort of Trojan horse type thing. But I don't sense that about him. However, my senses are limited just like everybody else's. So you have to sort of wait a little, even though we're running out of time. But they put this organisation up. It's not a political party. So I was immediately interested. Seriously, because it's not a political party. It's more like what we've talked about here, a consumer pressure group. And I've always liked the idea of consumer pressure groups because if they can get big enough, they can, what's that word? They can apply gentle, soft kill on the government, which is the most devastating, a gradual wearing of them out. You were talking about the way that these bushmen hunt animals. They just literally exhaust them. They wear them out. Yeah.
Yeah, Kalahari Bushmen. Yeah.
Yeah, and as a model, that seems apt for us. As long as we can get off the settee and away from our phones long enough to do a little bit of the sort of running around. But I signed up for the Twitter account. They had about 55,000 subscribers inside 10 hours. So I think if nothing else, it shows you that there is a tremendous hunger for the restoration of the nation. And he's saying the things that we want to hear. But I think in his case, at the moment, he means it. It all depends who comes and knocks on his door. And then suddenly, I didn't mean that. This is what happens, Like when they get in power, they go, oh, yeah, well, when we said we were going to stop immigration, I didn't mean straight away. And then everybody forgets it. It goes down the memory hole. 5 years go by and suddenly you can't actually move for the stuff. But I want to give him the benefit of what is currently for me a small doubt. I had a slight little lift of optimism. I thought, if he can get a good crew around him, and that really is the most important thing, no one can do this stuff alone, even though the voter base obviously identify with an individual. Of course, nobody identifies with Keir Starmer. You'd need your head examining by a psychiatrist, recommended by Keir Starmer to do such a thing. But I think it seemed to be good. I read through it. There's a good, if you look it up on X, maybe I said Twitter, but x.com, track it down. It's probably going to be worth following it to see what they're going to come out with. But there's a lot of support for it as an idea. And I think I'm just spending a little bit more time each day on X and looking at certain things. And there's some extremely, vibrant posts. I'll use the word vibrant, right? Things that you wouldn't have seen a year and a half ago. And I'm going to put the caveat in that I always put in, which is I'm still slightly circumspect about it, about whether it's a phishing bait operation to actually identify lively individuals and to deal with them a little bit later on. Now, this is me either being pathetically wet and paranoid, but we've got history on this sort of thing. And you need to, if you do read history and understand it, it's a bit dense if you then don't put it into practice.
But I can guarantee there will be one thing omitted from this. You see, what I've noticed, for example, Blair, he was brilliant at telling people what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Once they get into power, they're okay for about a couple of months.
Yeah.
He said he's going to restore the NHS, and the NHS was sort of slightly restored, and then it all goes pear-shaped. Same with Trump, starting to go pear-shaped. And there's one thing, and probably people have guessed by now, he won't mention a word about sorting out the financial system and usury. He won't do it. Why? Because he knows he and his party will be destroyed. And this is the big problem all the way through, because you know what happened in the BNP with Nick Griffin.
Yes.
He had a little knock on the door one night, and they said, you will drop the eradication of usury from your manifesto, or we'll destroy you and your party. He ignored them. Look what happened. They destroyed his party and they destroyed him. Very powerful.
It is in
we
that
are
arena.
ruled by the monetary elite. Yes.
We are.
So
and I know we bang on about it.
Probably,
and it's boring, isn't it, to keep saying it over and over again? But I've got a reminder here to myself: keep saying it over and over and over again until everybody stops listening to the show because they know what it's about. But it's just the bottom on the pragmatic level. It's pivotal. Here's the thing. Guess this. Do you know what UK, right? Annual interest payments on government debt. Guess.
No.
You'll probably guess. Well, I'll tell you because I heard the figure this morning.
Yeah.
This is interest payments alone each year. It's over £100 billion a year in interest. 100 billion in interest a year, right? But there's no money for anything. Yeah, there is. You don't pay it. Then they go, oh no, the bond market will collapse. So? And? Now what? Oh, well, if the bond market collapse, we'll get these other countries to form armies. We'll come and blow you to bits. All right, well, just say it, but they won't say that out loud. But that's what needs to be said. And that's why I think, the only people that can actually solve the banking problem are the account holders. Oh, and another thing I wanted to mention to everybody, I stumbled across this the other day, and I don't think I mentioned it last week. You know that old chestnut that all the countries of the world, actually, we're coming up to end of the first hour, but I'll just try and get this in. All the countries of the world are in debt. Now, the US debt is what, 34 trillion and rising, because they just love to borrow money. And the UK debt is what, 2 trillion pounds or over £1 trillion or something. I don't know what it is. Proportionally, it's a lot lower, but it's all meaningless. And so every country in the world is in debt. And the question used to be, well, if they're all in debt, who are they in debt to? Yeah. And of course, one of the stock answers is, well, to one another. Well, they just cancel all the debts out then, because the banks wouldn't want that because they wouldn't be able to charge on the outstanding debt and put interest on it. But much of that could occur. Also, although the bankers make sure that the countries end up at war so that they won't cancel each other's debt and they can still keep milking it off in the middle, blah, 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 or whatever they do, right? All you need to know is it's a con. It's just a complete deception and a con. So the answer, that's the good question. Who are they in debt to? I heard a guy called Ian somebody or other. Sorry, can't remember his surname. He runs a thing called Matrix Revolutions or something, and a thing called the Old Sovereign Society, which I've got to look into. He's an English guy, used to be very high up in the financial service industries. I think there's a question mark against him and what he's doing. There's a question mark against everybody and what everybody's doing, so I accept that. But there's some very interesting points. And he was on with David Clues from the Unity News Network. I don't know if you ever catch that on Rumble. David Clues is this Scottish fella. Yes. Very well screwed together show. Technically works really hard on it. I don't catch many of them, but he's doing a kind of pretty energized alternative news take on things, and he's doing a pretty good job. And he was on talking to him. And his answer to that, he said in total, the total amount of money that's owed across all these central banks is over 300 trillion or over 100 trillion. It's a huge sum. Like it's ludicrous. It doesn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything, right? He said, who's it all owed to? If all these countries owe money, who do they owe it to? And he said, his answer was really interesting. He said, you, the people of the world are owed all this money because it's your money that they've spent. But under the terms of the loan contracts and at government level, they're just much, much bigger, but it's the same scam, just dressed up in complete jargon and piffle and all that other stuff. I thought it was very interesting. So I think it leads into the idea that a vast movement of people that are going to get themselves back onto some kind of solid footing. And for me personally, this is going to require quite a bit of research and work and all that kind of stuff, because it's things about sovereign individuals, birth certificates, bills of exchange. What is a loan agreement? What is the power of your signature? Was it in ink? Is it assumed? Who created the money? You did, apparently, with your signature, so we are told, and it tends to look true to me. So that when you're the guy that creates the money when you take the loan, not the bank. The bank just pretends that it did because they're quite happy. You go, I'm going to create some money in my own name, and the bank go, oh, well, that's good, we'll charge you some interest on it, and you go, okay, because you think that they gave it to you. It gets complicated. Anyway, Eric, well, let's just hold it there. We're at the end of the first hour. We're just overshot, but I usually play a song here, and so I'm going to do what we usually do. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's been very sunny over here in jolly old England. In fact, I think it's been the best stretch of weather since, mid-March that I can remember for donkey's years. It's been absolutely fabulous, and my evening walks through the fields of barley, or is it golden wheat? I'm crap at crops. I've said this before. I don't know which one it is. I'm going to say barley for now. Just fantastic. I'm having some wonderful things. But you mentioned, here's one of your favourite songs, and it's quite old. You've mentioned it before, but it's all to do with the sun, about having a hat. And I would ask you all carefully to listen to the lyrics, because you can understand why this song wouldn't be recorded or be given the light of day today. I heard it today. This is by Ambrose and his orchestra, and it's called The Sun Has Got His Hat On. We'll be back after this little musical interlude.
He's coming out today. Now we'll all be happy. Hip, 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today. He's been tanning niggers out in Timbuktu. Now he's coming back to do the same to you. So jump into your sunbath. Hip, 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today. All the little birds are singing. All the little gnats are stinging. All the little bees in twos and threes, buzzing in the sun all day. Excited, all the little girls delighted. What a lot of fun for everyone, sitting in the sun all day.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
And Keir Starmer is hopefully going over to tryabrain.com. Eric, welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for playing that, because that's one of my favourite records. If you're ever miserable, that will cheer you up. It
did. I was clicking my heels. The lyrics are a bit saucy, those lyrics, were they? Blimey.
They are a bit saucy, but it takes me back to something. I don't know. I'll try and condense this right down, okay?
Go on.
Now, my mother's auntie, she fell in love with a bloke in the 1930s, and they were absolutely besotted with each other. They were made for each other.
Lovely.
And he, at the beginning of the war, was on reserved occupation. He had his own business, and he was a carpenter, and he made furniture, until somebody put him out of business that we won't go into, and he was immediately conscripted into the Navy. And then she got the telegram through saying missing, believed, killed. Mm-hmm. She was devastated, the poor woman. Yep. And she had a young son as well. And cutting a long story sideways, she eventually found refound the first love of her life, who she met at school, and they lived in this fisherman's cottage next to the River Lee.
Right.
And when I was before I started school, I must have been about 3 or 4. We went in there, and it was a time trap. When we went into that cottage, it was going back to the 1930s, and that record reminds me of that cottage every time. It was idyllic, and that's it, you know. And I've never forgotten. It's a childhood memory. So, and that must have been, I don't know, that was in the 60s. So, I must have been about 3 or 4 years old. But I always, when I think of that, I always think of that Auntie Ethel, I think of her, So that's it.
Yes. That's a lovely story. My dad used to sing that to me. I'm really familiar with it as a song, although I've not heard. That's obviously the original by Ambrose and the orchestra. That line, he's been tanning down in Timbuktu. Yes. That's lyric writing. Maybe that chap down at Glastonbury needs to hear that. That dark fella that was having a go at everybody and jumping around like a whatever. Anyway, so
has he been arrested yet?
I hope not. So. I think that would be infringing his freedom of speech, wouldn't it, Eric? We don't want anything like that. It'd be a bit saucy, wouldn't it? No, he should jolly well speak up. But yeah, no, it's lovely. When I always remember having a chucky egg, right? A hard-boiled egg. Isn't there a little song about hard-boiled eggs as well? Oh, my dad used to sing this one. Hang on.
Chicken, give
lay
it
a leg for me.
That's the one.
Chicken, I want one for my tea. I haven't had an egg since Wednesday, and now it's 3:30. So chicken, lay a little egg for me.
Well,
yes, I love that. My dad used to sing it to me just like that. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad. I think my dad did, and I go to a farm which is about 5
Did we have the
10
same
minutes
dad, Eric? What's going on? It's a bit worrying.
Hey, hang on. Did your dad used to disappear at a certain time? And then
and then he'd come back speaking all sort of Essexy and stuff. That was a bit odd, yeah. Oh, it's all coming together.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, it is coming together, yes. But I go to a farm that's about 10 minutes, quarter of an hour's walk away from where I live. And when I go in there, I buy my eggs from the farm, and they've got chickens running around. And the woman says, "Would you like some freshly laid ones?"
Mm-hmm.
I say, "Yes, please." And they're still warm from the chicken, and that's how. And they're cheaper than what you buy in the supermarket. And the shells are nice and thick because you know that the chicken has been. Because I gave some to my neighbour, and she said, "Oh, these shells are really thick." I said, "Yeah, that's organic. That's how they should be." But really big yolks are fantastic. They're proper eggs, and they're cheaper than ordinary eggs that you buy in the local supermarket. So there we go.
We're going to become chicken championers. We're going to have to champion the chicken. I love eating chicken, but every time I speak to you and you tell me it's full of growth hormones, I'm put off now. I haven't cooked a curry for 4 weeks. So I have I have this enormous slow cooker. It really is. It's vast. It's got, I think it's 7 litres of food I can put in it. I think it's measured by the litre, so it's tons, you know. And I always cook something spicy because then it'll last for 3 or 4 days. And I don't want to be cooking every day. I don't want to cook at all, actually. I want to have enough money to buy us some slaves and a chef and a butler and a Batman and all that. I just think we should have those things, don't you? I wouldn't mind one.
I agree, yes.
Yeah, but anyway, I loved all that. And I loved... Sorry, yeah, please.
Little tip with chickens. Sorry, I didn't mean to chime in there. But if you go and buy organic chicken in the supermarket, it costs you about 20 quid. Very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But I got this from the Bowler Hat Farmer. You can go to farms that are not registered organic, but the chicken is, and I can buy a chicken for about 11 or 12 pounds. Which is half the price of a supermarket, and it's not packed full of growth hormones and sex hormones and God knows what. So you won't be growing boobs or anything like that.
Oh.
Your bits won't fall off.
What about those of us that want to grow boobs, though, Eric? That's a bit discriminatory.
What, the LBD or whatever they call it, group or whatever?
Oh, God. Yes, eat chicken. Yeah, they don't need to go for all these ludicrously expensive things and having their bits chopped off and put on. They could just eat loads of chickens. It's okay, just eat a chicken. Wait 6 months, you'll be away. Yeah.
Have you seen what those vandals have done? I don't know where it is. There's a seat that's got a rainbow on it and all this, paraphernalia.
Yeah.
And it's a black seat and they've gone and painted over it. Yeah. So, and apparently, these zebra crossings where they've got these rainbows going across, to celebrate whatever it is they're celebrating. Yeah. Police horses, there's a video of it, wouldn't cross it. Couldn't go. They just didn't like it. Yeah. Yeah. Now, they're very sensitive. What did they know that we are accepting?
Maybe they're still in touch with their ink stinks and stuff like that. Yeah, they probably are. Hopping back onto our favourite topic, usury, and all that. There's a comment in the Rumble chat from Mark Anthony. Good evening, Mark Anthony. 72. So the other 71 Mark Anthony's are not here, but number 72's here, so good to see you. Mm-hmm. He writes, the Office for Budget Responsibility. Now, this is the office that Liz Truss ran foul of. I think I've mentioned this before. When she was... Actually, have I got the clip? Look, I can actually be almost professional if I've got it. I wonder if I've got it here. Dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum, because it's always worth hearing us say this. Apart from which, I get to press a button, but I can't find the... Where's it gone? I thought I had it. Hold on. If I can't find it, I won't play it, obviously. Let me just see if I can do this. I've mentioned Liz Truss before, right? Oops. Oh, I need to put a light on. But this is live radio, everybody.
Yeah, by the way, Paul, Patrick's in. I can't see him though. Apparently, he's in the studio, but I can't see him.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'll come to you in a second, Patrick. We'll bring you into the studio. Right, Liz Truss, Steve Bannon. I haven't played this this is a year, and then we'll talk about the Office of Budgetary Responsibility. Yeah. She was on with Steve Bannon back in January 24, I think this is. So it's a year and a half ago. She's obviously no longer Prime Minister. Listen to this if you can.
What I found out when I got into number 10 is I thought that if I got to the top of the tree, I would be able to implement those conservative policies.
So you think once you're Prime Minister, as a little girl, I was thinking, if I get Prime Minister, I'll be like Churchill, I'll change the country.
Exactly.
That's not how it works.
Exactly. And what I discovered was that I was not holding the levers. The levers were held by the Bank of England, by the Office of Budget Responsibility, they weren't held by the Prime Minister or the Chancellor. And I think that's a massive, that's a massive problem.
Hang on. You're saying the central bank, the Bank of England, is one of the things that controls. Are you a conspiracy theory person? You almost sound like Worm. You're MAGA.
What I'm saying, Steve, is that if the Bank of England governor can't be sacked and the Prime Minister can be sacked, then the Bank of England governor is going to have more power than the Prime Minister. And that is a problem in a democracy. Because the fact is the left have succeeded in infiltrating our campuses.
So, you heard that before, Eric? You heard that one before?
Yes, I have. Yes.
It's worth playing for. I mentioned this before. That's the most truthful thing, just about. I mean, maybe there's some more that I've heard in a public arena spoken by anybody that used to be Prime Minister ever in my entire life. That's the entire issue.
It's a wonder she's still living, isn't it?
Well, it is in a way, and I know she's got sort of, she's going to be portrayed badly because that was her drive. People have said the budget that they prepared must have been more competent than the thing that we've actually having to endure under this bunch of amateurs. It must have been, right? It just simply, it couldn't be any worse, could it? But the point that the governor of the Bank of England cannot be sacked, but the Prime Minister can, tells you that there's no point voting. I mean, it's an insane situation. It's like saying, look, you elect some people to manage your nation, but they can't. Why not? Well, we can't tell you why, but we're not going to let them really manage it. Well, we're not. Okay, who said that? Well, not us. You can't even find out who's saying it either. But she just bumped into it full on and hit a brick wall. So there's the enemy, everybody. I know I bang on about it all the time, but as we say, repetition's the key. This is the enemy, and the bank's got to go. And I was listening to a little clip with Justin Walker the other day, the guy who really brought all of the knowledge about the Bradbury pound to everybody's attention about 10 or 15 years ago. And he was connected, you see. He got the information from I think it was his uncle. And he was talking about being on a train ride, 1971. He's going down to university or to take his final exams. So he's a little bit older than me. I don't know when he was born, 1950s or something. So he's probably about 18, 19, 20. And it's 1971. They're on a train going to London with his uncle. I think it was his uncle, who was one of the governors.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the governors, was an actual governor of the Bank of England. And they're in a compartment. You remember compartments, right? Oh, I loved old railway compartments. Absolutely brilliant. Having a conversation, chugging down. And he starts to give him some pieces of advice. And during this little communication, he says to him, the government can't do anything unless we allow it. That's directly what he said to him. He said, if we don't allow it, they can't do it. He said, we control the press. We can control anything we like, basically. And he's not even a top guy. He's just a governor. But he knows he was bolted into that thing. And that's why, literally democracy is a sham. And for our American listeners, I'm not trying to upset you, but Trump can't save you. He can't. Nobody can. It's all nonsense.
We've got to save ourselves.
He can't do it. No elected official in these systems that we have in the West can save or help their people under the currency because they're all being got at. They wouldn't even be in the position in the first place if they hadn't been. This is not conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact. This is proven through countless hundreds, possibly thousands of papers and books, which of course have been controlled and hidden from the population for a huge chunk of time prior to the arrival of the internet. The last 20 years, nosy beaks like us have stuck our noses in there and gone, missus, this ain't right. And that's kind of what we've got, what we've ended up getting roped into.
Yes.
But just to go back, I never even quoted the...
G. Edward Griffin.
Well, G. Ed Griffin did some brilliant work, but I've not even read out Mark Antony's thing, so I want to finish. The Office for Budget Responsibility, so that's who Liz Truss was just talking about there, says Britain will spend nearly, now brace yourself, my pathetic 100 billion is about to be hammered into the ground, right? So they, according to this from Mark Antony, and thank you for this, says that Britain will spend nearly £600 billion on interest payments. That's just under $1 trillion, about $900 billion on interest payments over the next 5 years. Okay, so it's 120 billion. All right, so I wasn't far off, but it is madness. I don't know what your interest payments are in the States, but they will be comparative, right? It's all nonsense. And it's all this insane economic reporting game. Oh, well, we're going to put the interest rates and we're going to do that. Why don't we just shut you lot down? Can we just shut you down? Oh, I'm deluded, aren't I, to even talk like that. But in the end, you just end up talking like an infant about it because all the highfalutin speech doesn't achieve anything either. It achieves absolutely nothing. BlackRock, you've heard of BlackRock, right? Eric?
Yes.
And all these other guys.
Yeah, I've heard of them, yeah.
Well, basically, they're all one company. There's just one company now. You've now got company that's running the world. The empire of the merchants exists. It appears to be all these different multinationals. There's just one. There's effectively just one. And this is why economic reporting is a joke. It's why they can keep pushing so much money out by government borrowing, supposedly, because I suspect there's no intention of ever having the governments be in a position to ever pay it back, because they're going to use it as a causative reason to say, hey, everybody, this has got slightly out of hand. In brackets, we know because we caused it, close brackets, right? They say that as an aside. And so the solution, everybody, is we want a central bank digital currency. That'll stop this sort of nonsense happening again. And they're right. It will stop that sort of nonsense happening again. It's going to introduce a new kind of economic mayhem into our lives and an excessive degree of, control to them. I know this is just
you will own nothing and be happy.
I suspect we own nothing right now, Eric, actually. I was talking about a low-deal title in property, which is what you used to have under King Alfred, right? You had a low-deal title. There's also some very interesting information about the Druids going back 2,000 years and how they managed land. It was owned by the Druids in these parcels all laid out. It's really interesting stuff. All of this stuff, I would suggest everybody, certainly if you're English, is still in your bones. I'm going to just suggest that. You might not think it is, but I think it is. It's in our bones. There's a sense that everything is out of whack. And we've really got William the Conqueror to thank for it, for shifting things across. But yes. Thanks very much for that information. Mark Anthony, that's excellent. So 120 billion a year. Yeah, that's fine. We can afford that, can't we? I also, there was a thing. Let me bring Patrick in now. Sorry, Patrick, I've not been ignoring you. I just didn't add you to the stage. Hang on. There we go. Patrick, good evening. How are you? Or good afternoon, I should say. How are things? Is it sunny in Wisconsin, as sunny as it has been here in England?
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's 31 C right now. It's beautiful.
Okay,
we got a Dalek.
You sound like a Dalek.
We exterminate. Exterminate.
Yeah, you're having audio technical trouser problems, Patrick. They're quite incredible. You almost sound like Keir Starmer.
Yes,
he does. It almost sounds like Keir. This is what you sound like, Patrick.
He does.
Doesn't he? Sounds like that. Or you sound a bit. You also sound a bit like this. There you go.
Did you hear about Keir Starmer and his boyfriend walking by the quayside? And
which one? He's got three. They all tried to burn his houses down.
Really? Well, one of them, and one slips arse over tit. Sorry, you're after 9 o'clock to say that arse over tit. In the water, you see. And Keir Starmer's saying, "Oh, what shall I do?" He says, "Help! I'm drowning." He said, "Oh, shall I throw you a buoy?" And his partner says, "Oh no, don't do that. I ain't got time for that." So,
I assume I'm coming through now.
No, we can't hear you, Patrick. No,
That's right.
No, we can't hear you. You sound great. I'm just teasing.
All right, hold on. I'll be right back.
No, you sound
then.
fine. You sound great. I was just winding you up, okay? Because I've got to. It's great. Oh, he's gone now. Have you gone? You took me seriously, Eric. Oh, look, all these voices are coming. Everybody, if you don't know what's going on, all these voices are coming into the show from America, and we don't know who they are, except you might be Paul. Hello, Paul.
Eric.
It's just me. And Eric, isn't that bum over tea kettle?
Yes, bum over tea. That's a good one. Yes, bum over tea kettle. You like that one? I guess you like that joke. Yes, because Keir Starmer isn't gay, but his boyfriend is. Apparently.
Oh, well, all right. So he's only half playing on the other team.
He is. Well, they've actually published the photographs of the three youths that were responsible for setting fire to his properties, right? And of course, it's very interesting how that's gone completely quiet and everybody's forgotten about that. Because a really good question would be, how did they know where those properties were? It's just a simple question. How did they know that he owned those properties?
It's a bit of a bummer, isn't it, when you come to think about it?
It's a bit of a bummer, but apparently it's a triple bummer, actually. It looks like to me it's triple-header bummer of a problem. Don't worry, everybody. They're going to inquire into it in June 2026, by which time memory hole itis will have taken hold on the media, and no one will know what's going on because they won't be informed to pay attention to it.
Hello.
They've literally been arse-onning about, haven't they? Mm-hmm. Sorry, it's about that one.
How's it going?
It's fine, Patrick.
Hello, Patrick.
Good.
How's it going with you in Wisconsin? Is it sunny?
It's sunny and beautiful. It's 31, 88 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, that's nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, very nice.
One of the best days of the year here.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, we've had a beautiful day here.
I heard you talking about BlackRock. I remember I worked on a case called J.P. Morgan, or what was it? Lehman Brothers versus J.P. Morgan Chase.
Yeah.
And Barclays had bought out Lehman Brothers, and I think they own a substantial share in BlackRock. Barclays does. So it reminded me of that. And then what's interesting about Liz Truss is, well, for one thing, is what happens when the Prime Minister is also the head of the Bank of England. Like who do they get their orders from? That's the real question.
Well, that's a jolly good question. Yeah.
He's the Prime Minister of Canada at the moment.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense. If okay, well, if you don't get any higher than the Bank of England had, then who, what else is there? There's got to be something. I remember you talking about wanting a list of the shareholders of the Bank of England at one point.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah,
should be just published in the papers. These chaps and chapesses are the ones that own it all. But would you be able to rely upon the integrity of the journalist? You maybe could, but you'd have to assume that he'd already be nobbled prior to the article getting published. I mean, it's literally nothing can be accepted.
They won't kill Liz Truss because she's already come out. I remember when she was running or just became prime minister, she came out and was in a big room with people, and she said very proudly, "I'm a Zionist." So I don't think they're gonna go after her, if only for that reason.
I tend to think that they view them as assets, Patrick. In other words, maybe in the olden days, opposition was just done away with. You took their head off or whatever you did, or you poisoned them. And those things, no doubt, still go on. The main thing that they use is this sort of sexual perversion stuff and control them through that. And they view them, I suspect, as a controlled asset. They go, no, we don't want to kill them. There's so much use that we can just wheel them out to divert attention with this. They're like actors on it. We're going to rewrite the play for the next month, and you're now going to be the villain for the next 2 years. Yeah, and you'll go to prison.
Steve Bannon was, he worked for Goldman Sachs. He was high up in Goldman Sachs. So how can you trust any of them?
Nope.
I mean, there's supposedly right now a big split between the MAGA movement, the Make America Great Again thing.
Yeah.
With Trump, and Steve Bannon somehow has become a spokesman for that. And it's like, well, okay, who made you the spokesman? And same with Tucker Carlson. It's like these people are all actors on a stage. They're not.
They are.
Spot on, Patrick. Organic. Spot right on. Yeah.
They have to be actors, because how can you get the amount of energy that they have to keep saying all these things with such theatrical, dramatic effect all the time for years and years and years unless you're getting paid? You can't do it.
And get dialogue going with the president of the United States. How can any plebeian type person even dream of doing that? It's another question. It's like it's out of the question. You can't.
It is. It's out of the question. And you look at these operations that are supposedly in the alt media, let's just take Alex Jones, right? Yep. Entertaining and all that kind of stuff. There's a huge team around him to produce that
Gatekeeper.
stuff. Yeah. So there's a whole team. We don't know who's on his team. We don't know who's actually responsible for the editorial content and who picks what he's going to do. Maybe it's him. I doubt it. If anybody's actually sort of worked on doing these things, even just this little thing, right, takes me hours to set up. Obviously, I'm not properly trained and I'm bumbling around and it's getting more efficient. But you're all facing that. I mean, at least we've got the situation where we can comb and scour all these alternative sites. But I'm not going to the main ones. I still really rely on sources that were writing proficiently 10, 15, 20 years ago, if they're still alive and doing that sort of thing, because the material that was being unveiled then is still the most relevant. Now we've got this kind of, it's turned into a hybrid sort of infotainment space. I mean, you mentioned Tucker Carlson, so obviously he's well known because of his broadcast media stuff, and now I'm outside of that, and it's not that he doesn't do good stuff. This is the thing, they have to mix good stuff in. I mean, his interviews with Catherine Austin Fitts have been fantastic. She's brilliant, she's right on the ball, and she can pare it down. She nails exactly what's going on, and so it's useful. It's difficult to sometimes gauge these people, and maybe that's part of the operation too, so that we're always slightly off balance, because our instincts are that we're looking for someone to back, and that's probably where we immediately go wrong.
Yes. Yeah, that's why they have us vote. Yep. It's like going to the confessional. You feel clean afterward, like you confessed all your sins, and now you put it on somebody else. I contributed to society, and you didn't. Like a scapegoat.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I mentioned before, when I've had discussions with people about voting, one of the things that came up repeatedly was, people would disapprove when I would tell them. I'd say, well, I've never voted in my life. And a common retort was, well, you can't complain then. I said, you've got it the wrong way round. I said, it's you that can't complain. You put the buggers in. I said, I can complain all day long. I said, I'm not responsible for this. You are in part. I mean, it's a bit rich of me to say that because it's so farcically minute, that conversation in comparison to the large-scale idiocy of organised government. But it's true. Participating in voting is basically sort of rubber sealing your own approval of your own imprisonment to some degree. I mean, who knows? Maybe Rupert Lowe really will be able to do something. At least the idea of a consumer pressure group, I'm just calling it that, I don't think they call it that, is what I think a much more effective, it's got much greater chance of being effective. So that, because you see a lot of these alternative groups here, no doubt probably Patrick and Paul, if he's still listening in the States, they're hankering after another political counterforce to come in and sort it out. But that's never, ever happened. As Eric was saying earlier, think of one government that's ever worked for us. There aren't any. There have been great individuals, though, within the political class. And in America, half of those have got assassinated. Right? The good guys, they're the ones that get bumped off. And you're thinking, well, this sort of...
Yeah, McKinley, Kennedy, Lincoln, those sorts.
Absolutely.
Lincoln wasn't that good, though. Was he?
No.
Because he
you could say that a lot of them, toward the end they get good. It's like anybody. You can be wicked your whole life, but then toward the end you can suddenly see the light and repent from what you did. So I think there's a lot of that going on in their lives. Whether they were exemplary saint-like people in their whole life, I doubt it. But toward the end, there's a reason they get bumped off. Like Hussein,
wasn't Lincoln the one that was pushing the greenback?
Yeah.
Paul
was talking about that last week or the week before.
Yeah, he did some good stuff.
Free.
Have you heard of
what do they call it? An intaglio printer? You get one of them, and you can print all the money you want. Intaglio.
Oh, right, okay.
It's a type of printing press with a big drum, and it spits out bills.
Eric, doesn't
one of them.
Doesn't Fockham Hall sell intaglio presses? I'm sure they do in the
we
catalogue.
might go into that, yes, but it's the only country in the world where you can actually print your own money off, you see. So if you get a bit short of dosh, you just print your own foxbobs off. Simple as that. Trouble is, you can buy for very little from them with them.
so
actually
far,
download them.
So far, you can only buy a little bit so far.
Yes.
But yeah, absolutely. No, there's a guy.
Well,
there's an author in the States called. I've got to read these. In fact, I just downloaded them the other day. Again, another plug for this online library, welib.org, welib.org. 46 million books. I'm just absolutely hard. I'm just scooping stuff out of there. I'm going, oh no, I want to read all this stuff, and I'm looking at my time clock, going, this is going to take me 85 years to read all this. I need another head. But there's an author over there called Thomas DiLorenzo. Have you guys heard of him? Or Tom DiLorenzo? DiLorenzo. He's written 2 books on Lincoln. And SOAPBOX was playing an interview with him, or a presentation he made the other night. And of course, people don't know what's on SOAPBOX because the scheduling thing is not providing enough information. So it's a bit like potluck. I'm in the same position, even though I throw the shows in there. I don't know quite what's coming up at the moment. It's just a matter of time. But he's addressing an audience talking about Lincoln. Lincoln's not a good guy. I mean, he's just not. And he was couching it in a different way. And you realize how powerful spin is and the way that people frame arguments to create myths in people. Lincoln did a lot of things that were not on a lot.
Oh, he was buddies with Marx.
Yeah, he was. And he was persecuting Northerners. There were some terrible things, really heavy.
And they were holding seances in the White House with his wife.
Yeah. And then you think about that statue of him. What's the building where there's that huge stone?
The Lincoln Monument. It's on our penny.
Yeah. What's that all about?
It used to be anyway.
That's the same thing they've done with Marx, turning these guys into gods. You know, we got one of Cromwell outside the Houses of Parliament. I mean, who does this stuff? It ain't us. I'm not interested in these dorks. Every single one of them is associated with war, the death of our people. First and foremost, they're all involved in that. Oh, we're going to champion them. Hang on, just a minute. What about all these people that have actually done something good? They never get a mention. And so it's the hidden hand. Again, it's not that hidden these days for those of us that have looked, but it's that hand at play. And I think, so yeah, Tom DiLorenzo, I think he's still alive. He's probably still doing some recordings. He's a seasoned individual. But there's one called Lincoln Unmasked, I think, and the other one. And if you're a Lincoln supporter, you're probably hating me. But I think everybody owes it to themselves to read stuff that goes against the grain of what they currently believe. And I include myself in that. I'm trying to get one that's having a pop at Hitler because I want to see what information's in there that I might not know. I mean, because when people advocate a certain viewpoint, they tend to, I do this, we all do this, you tend to gather information that supports it. You do it subconsciously, unconsciously almost. And that doesn't mean to say that it hasn't got merit, but there's generally always something that you're not looking at that needs to be included. And so I think he's done 2 books, Lincoln Unmasked, I've forgotten the other one, and it's about his crimes, really, about this with this war, because it's really an invasion of the South. And of course, I've heard people say, no, the South were riddled with it as well. They had, what's his name, Judah P. Benjamin from the Rothschilds, and they're stirring,
the treasurer.
Yeah. They were being played off against one another. There were these disturbing forces inside there that were having a go. And Joseph P. Farrell has just written a book, the Rialto something or other. I can't remember the title of it, which he just released this year. Who was the leader of the South? What's his name?
Jefferson Davis?
Yeah, him. I think it's Jefferson Davis. Well, they all got away at the end. You know, he sort of, yeah, what's that all about? You know, the stories that are not told about what happened afterwards. I'm going, and it stares you in the face when someone points it out, and I'm going, I'm always missing stuff. You just can't scope it all. It's not possible. We're easily distracted. I include myself. Hopefully I'm less distracted than I used to be, and that's really the aim of this, is to be able to focus in right on the criticals. But they're very important because in the Nameless War, which we were covering last week or the week before, I can't remember when we were doing it, the great document, which if you haven't got it, everybody, you need to go get a copy. You can get it on welib.org. The Nameless War by Archibald Maule Ramsey. It's definitely worth your time to read it through.
That's a good site, by the way. That's a good site.
It's
Anybody
fantastic.
Wants to find any book, welib.org.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And they've got a track record of the previous incarnation. Anna's Archive came into trouble with the free speech controllers. So whoever the crew is that's doing it, they've done a magnificent job. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, you have to know about these things, but 46 million books. It's big gear. It's big gear time and sorting all that out. And they've done a fantastic job with it. So I hope we can keep it going. But and I've completely forgotten what I was about to say.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I've
gone off on a beam and I can't come back to the thought.
See,
Damn it.
The thing about those digital books that's nice, especially if you already have the book, you can do a word searches for a particular part in the book, so you don't have to sit and write down the page number when you come across something that you find interesting in a book you're reading.
Yep.
I found it very nice for going back to books that I already own hard copies of, and getting a digital copy, and then going back and finding the parts that I found most interesting in a book.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's coming to the fore. I'm using Amazon Kindle to read those things, and it's coming to the fore for show prep, although as I said, for today I didn't have any time this week really to do it. I've just been sort of technical all week, but you can put notes in into the books, and it collects all your notes, and then you search your notes, and so you can just underline stuff, make a note, call it what it is, and these salient points start to come through. They're very, very useful. And
what was the name of the author of the book you were reading about? Was it Lincoln?
The two books by Tom DiLorenzo. I think it's one word, DiLorenzo. Tom DiLorenzo, American guy, really good. I'll play it again sometime, the interview with him. I've got to listen back to it because it's about 2 hours long. I thought, whoa, I was out walking, catching bits, and then saying hello to people in a cheery voice. Hello, isn't it a beautiful evening? Because I do that sort of thing, you know. But there was some really good stuff in. And I think I stumbled across him about 1.5 years ago, and I just not had a chance to get into his books. But it's very easy to pick him up on WeLib. And it's the speed of it. I think if you don't act on getting a book when it's in your head, you forget about it, and something else comes along after 3 days, and I don't get hold of this stuff, you know. So, but yeah. And what I was going to mention, I know what I was going to mention. Yeah, in The Nameless War by Ramsey, he's detailing these pivot points in history from the so-called English Civil War, which of course had an alien influence in it, as Ramsey points out. He doesn't cover the war between the states, though, which I always thought was an odd omission. Maybe he just didn't have the information at the time. He can't have, but it's definitely on the line. It's definitely on this line of propelling things from a state of order into the state of disorder that we now find ourselves in, to enable, obviously, BlackRock to take over. We just call it that for now. It's something else, of course. There's the people that control that, but we've got to name it something. So, all about this disintegration, the reducing down of monarchies, which, and you know, they're questionable. I think they're possibly the least worst solution, but that's not saying much, is it? You know, I'm not into democracy because look at what we're having to endure. It's basically slow burn communism and blah 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 blah. So that's kind of where we've ended up. Yeah, thrilling stuff.
I was mentioning, you were talking about ending usury, and I was mentioning Pope Pius IX.
Right.
He was the last pope to have the papal states, which were the Italian peninsula up from Rome up to the north, and that was taken away by Mazzini, who was known as a collaborator with Albert Pike over in the States during the Civil War.
Yeah.
It's about that same time that the papal states were taken away that the Civil War in America took place. And the Pope was actually on the side of the South.
Right.
He had regular correspondence with Jefferson Davis. And he was all for that. And the thing with the Pope was they did not allow usury. Yes, you had things like the Rothschilds. That was kind of the downfall of the papal states, was they had no way to pay their soldiers, so they ended up taking out these loans from the Rothschild bankers in order to pay soldiers, and then eventually it just got taken over by the likes of Mazzini and those types that formed the Italian Republic. You know, the Madame Blavatsky and Mazzini, they had a big collaboration together during that time. And then it's the Freemasons. They were the revolutionary force in the 19th century, where you had this breakdown of Christian civilization suddenly allowing aliens to become citizens that previously didn't have any rights to be citizens. And that those tended to be the bankers that took over. They were given tremendous amount of power as a consequence of that breakdown of civilization.
Well, one of the things DiLorenzo was mentioning in these snippets from this speech that I heard a couple of days ago was talking about the opinion in England with regard to the war between the states. And so your guys were over here, you know, talking to ambassadors and this, that, and the other. People were buying stuff. There was a big naval battle at Cherbourg between a Confederate ship, I forgot the name of it, and a Yankee ship that came over. They had a battle in the English Channel. And I
think they had one in Scotland as well, didn't they? I think there was a battle in Scotland as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's serious stuff. And the Confederate ship made its way back to Liverpool, I think it was, where it got refitted out. at great expense to get back. It had a sort of an ironclad hull and it had been causing mayhem with Yankee merchant shipping. Can I say Yankee, or I just offended a lot of people? But Northern.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. And that they were doing the sort of the trade battle plan. They thought if they could smash enough ships out of the water that were delivering stuff into the northern states, they could begin an economic, or a material sort of stranglehold. They just didn't have enough firepower in any of these things. But I think De Lorenzo's basically saying it completely broke the law, the agreement between the states. And listen, anybody hearing this, you understand I'm an Englishman and I don't understand all the details by a long chalk. But he was saying, it was a declaration of war. It's not a civil war. It wasn't an internal war. There was literally no right to do this at all. And therefore something has sort of got in the place to put them up to it. And it's a continuation of this stuff. It's absolutely a continuation of the same old every single time. And they were saying that they were reading a lot of the newspapers and journals over here in England, and broadly speaking, the English, what would you call them, opinion formers, the newspaper editors and people high up in politics, most of them were on the side of the South. Their sympathies lay with the South, which is interesting. I mean, I've got no documentary evidence to quote from here as I say this. And
trade was a big reason, and I'm thinking of cotton. The cotton trade was in the South, and you needed that. The one big thing with cotton was you needed it for gun cotton, for making a rifle powder.
Yeah,
for
cordite.
bullets.
Cordite.
Well, they maybe needed it in the mills up in England,
and that
which were going hammer and tongs, right? So we've got all these automated looms that you've got what's that thing? What was that thing that was invented over here? The shuttle.
Spinning jelly.
There's loads of stuff. Yeah, all these machines that were invented in the 1800s. So for the mass production of decent clothing, obviously you're going to need some cotton coming in at one end. So maybe that was part and parcel of the whole thing. It always comes down to trade. Every war is a trade war. That's all it really is. It's a money war and a trade war, and they just get people to die for it so they can maintain their stranglehold over markets and that kind of stuff. While we're speaking about usury as well, let's see. Soldier of God, who writes on the Paul English Telegram chat, asked me the other week to play a clip of Ezra Pound reading. It's 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So this is a recording of Ezra Pound on usury. Usura is the word he uses, which is possibly its original spelling or pronunciation. It's from the cantos. This is canto XLV, whatever that is in English. What's an L stand for? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm going to play it. It's 3 minutes long.
50.
This is how
50.
you.
L is 50. Sorry, L is 50.
Okay, so this is how you address. This is how you deal with usury if you're Ezra Pound and you're going to write it as a poet and put it in a poem and put some emotional force into it. It's quite interesting. And he doesn't sound like an American when he's saying this. He almost sounds like someone who's come from the West Country over here. It's close to that. You'll get the drift. You'll see what I mean, Eric, when you hear it. Anyway, here we go. Here's Ezra Pound recorded, I don't know when, after he got out the loony bin, I suppose, maybe in the 1960s or something, talking about, well, his poem on usura.
With usura hath no man a house of good stone, each block cut smooth and well-fitting, that delight might cover their face. With usura hath no man a painted paradise on his church wall, harpes elute, or where virgin receiveth message and halo projects from incision. With usura seeth no man Gonzaga his heirs and his concubines. No picture is made to endure nor to live with, but it is made to sell and sell quickly. With usura sin against nature is thy bread evermore of stale rags. Is thy bread dry as paper, with no mountain wheat, no strong flour? With usura the line grows thick. With usura is no clear demarcation, and no man can find site for his dwelling. Stone cutter is kept from his stone, weaver is kept from his loom with usura. Wool comes not to market, sheep bringeth no gain with usura. Usora's a murrain, Usora blunteth the needle in the maid's hand and stoppeth the spinner's cunning. Pietro Lombardo came not by Usura, Duccio came not by Usura, nor Pier della Francesca, Juan Bellin not by Usura, nor was La Calunnia painted. Came not by Usura Angelico, came not Ambrogio Predis. No church of cut stone signed Adamo may fake it. Not by Usura Saint Trophim, not by Usura Saint Hilaire. Usura rusteth the chisel, it rusteth the craft and the craftsman. It gnaweth the thread in the loom. None learneth to weave gold in her pattern. Azure hath a canker by Usura, Karamasi is unbroidered. Emerald findeth no memling. Usura slayeth the child in the womb, it stayeth the young man's courting. It hath brought palsy to bed, lieth between the young bride and her bridegroom, contra naturam. They have brought whores for Eleusis. Corpses are set to banquet at behest of Usura.
Ezra Pound giving it some. Doesn't sound like an American to me, reading that. Absolutely fantastic stuff.
Sounds Scottish.
Yeah, almost.
Is he actually American? Because he sounded Scottish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounded very Scottish. Yeah.
Aye. But, I mean, you get the gist of it. You get the gist of the whole thing. He's just, that's it. That's how damaging this stuff is. And until it's lifted, people can't see where everything is blunted by it, as he said. What was that? I like that. The maid's needle is blunted by Usura.
He sounds like an Old Testament prophet reading out a curse.
I guess if we think Old Testament prophets sounded like that, then he obviously sounds like one. And I suppose most of us do think they sounded like that, full of thunder. But it works. It gets your attention. And I don't think you'll get Keir Starmer being able to speak with such conviction, passion, and an ability to actually hold your attention. What do you think, Eric?
I very much doubt that, yes.
Yes.
Keir Starmer, or Keith, he's known as Keith now, isn't it? It's Keith Starmer. Because, but the thing I'd like to find out is we always, with the American Civil War, it's always based on the history is written by the victors. And as we know, that's why French history books have got so many blank pages.
Oh, you rotter.
From but from an American point of view, what's your point of view, sort of, Paul or Patrick, of the American Civil War? Because, the attitude is that it was about slavery. Well, I don't think it was about slavery, because the North had slaves as well as the South. So
no, it wasn't about
Paul,
slavery.
Patrick,
It was the war to bring in the civil law, the just civil. And the reason that the war happened was because the South had all the money and the North kept borrowing money and spending money they didn't have. And when the debt came due for the country, the North wanted the South to pay it, and they didn't want to. Basically, it was the war to bring in the civil law and to lock everyone in, wait for it, usury.
Yeah.
Well,
that's my
amazing?
take on it.
So, yeah. I mean, did they? I bet they didn't have
law.
Income tax and things like that. Yeah.
No, it was that.
But I bet they didn't
had
have
a victory tax. They had a victory tax that was supposed to fund the war effort, and it was supposed to be a temporary tax. However, it never went away. So,
no. Are you saying they introduced a tax and just forgot to rescind it? Well, I've never heard of anything like that. Hang on, just a minute.
I'm sure it was
just a minute.
Perfectly honest oversight.
I'm sure it was. Actually, it must be just a pure coincidence, Paul, because exactly the same thing happened over here. After the Napoleonic Wars, they introduced income tax during it to fund bullets and things and people getting blown up. And then they got rid of it. And then in the early 1820s, they went, God, that was such a wizard wheeze. What a great prank that was. Let's bring it back. So they did. And we've been cursed with the bloody thing ever since, of course.
Yes.
Income tax, yeah. Didn't used to exist, everybody. Shouldn't exist now.
And they don't pay income tax in Russia, by the way.
Right.
No.
Now that's because
wanna
the
go
people
there.
that you think are in charge are not actually in charge.
No.
Like all of these world leaders. I mean, you talked about it. The Prime Minister of Britain can be
Yeah.
fired, but the head of the World Bank cannot be. Okay, well, Evelyn de Rothschild poked Prince Charles in the chest and got away with it. So basically that meant that Charlie was Rothschild's bitch.
That's a bit harsh, but true.
I'm sorry. I'll take it back. What about Marina Abramovic? Not very many people know about her, but everybody that's in any reasonable position of authority bows to her. She's a performance artist. The Shocking Life and Performance Art of Marina Abramovic. Her work
Yes.
explores body art, endurance art. God only knows what that means. The relationship between the performer and the audience, the limits of the body and the possibilities of the mind.
Well, I don't know what to say. It sounds
Sounds like spirit cooking to me.
Sounds really exciting, doesn't it? Sound? I want to get into a bit of that. Although the word art seems to be the wrong word. I'd probably replace it with the word arse, which seems to me to be really much more appropriate. So
now I don't know her. I don't know her. I'm not speaking from fact or authority, but from everything that I have seen, people that should not have to bow to anybody actually do bow to her.
maybe we
Andy
could.
Andy
No, you're
Warhol.
right. Yeah, you're right.
Or Andy, are we after 10 o'clock yet? No, Andy beginning with an A, Hole. That's what we used to call him when I was at college, you know.
Did
I was
you?
Andy Hole, yes. Yes, because I don't get abstract. And the lecturer gave up with three of us. We just did not get abstract. I don't get it at all. To me, it's just
There's nothing to get.
rubbish.
There's nothing to
Yeah,
get.
he,
crap.
he was a con man.
Yeah, of course he was.
Yeah.
You only need to see pictures of him. He was just knackered.
So,
A drained, withered shell of a human being, just full of his own whatever it was. I mean, it's all a joke.
and a sex maniac as well.
Yeah, all right.
And a sex maniac as well.
Oh, well, we're all that, are we?
And the other one was, who's the other one? Picasso. Picasso, I can't see anything in his stuff either.
No.
You know, cubes and things.
One thing about him is his early stuff, it showed some real talent, but then you look, it's like he purposely went against it. That's
He gave into the money. He gave into the money, Patrick.
Yeah.
There's a painting he did when he's about 14, and you go, wow. It's like a proper painting. I like saying that because it really gets their back up. Oh, you're just a tradition. Yeah, that's right. Can you paint? No. Oh, no, I'm creating this. Yeah, I'm not really interested, love. Thanks very much. Do us a favour. Go away. I mean, it's just it's nonsense. I love the idea in the old masters. You had to be an apprentice for 15 years or something before they'd even let you anywhere near a canvas by yourself. You wouldn't even get on. No, you're not. Well, you're not. You don't know how to do it yet. It's going to take you 12 years or something, and you'll sit with this bloke. You're going to learn to draw everything. And anyway, those days are kind of gone.
Who was it that came up with that? He was a brown painter or something.
I don't know.
Is that Eric's joke?
I don't know.
You remember? You know what I'm talking about?
A brown.
Anyway, I've got a song lined up for you, Eric. I've got another song lined up for you, everybody, as we transition from the end of hour two. We're going to leave you all on WBN 324. We'll be back again next week. We're carrying on, I don't know for how long. I thought we were going to be short, but I'm all in the mood now. So you see, I'm always contradicting myself. We're carrying on Rumble and elsewhere. But this song that I'm going to play you out with is very exciting. It's the Prune Song by Frank Crummett. An American type. It's called The Song of the Prune.
I know what's coming.
The Song of the Prune by Frank Crummett. I don't know how vulgar it is. I just heard a little bit of it the other day. It's a novelty song anyway, and Patrick likes these too. Frank Crummett, 3 minutes of the great Frank. Here we go. We'll be back after this one, everybody. Only the latest hits here on Paul English Live, you know.
Nowadays we often gaze on women over 50 without the slightest trace of wrinkles on their face. Doctors go and take their dough to make them young and nifty. But doctors I defy to tell me just why. No matter how young a prune may be, it's always full of wrinkles. We may get them on our face, prunes get them every place. Prohibition worries us, but prunes don't sit and brood. For no matter how young a prune may be, it's always getting stewed. In the kingdom of the fruits, the prune is snubbed by others, and they are not allowed to mingle with the crowd. Though they're never on display with all their highbrow brothers, they never seem to mind. To this fact they're resigned, that no matter how young a prune may be, it's always full of wrinkles. Beauty treatments always fail. They've tried all to no avail. Other fruits are envious, because they know real well that no matter how young a prune may be, hot water makes them swell. Baby prunes look like their dad, but not wrinkled quite as bad. Every day in every way, the world is getting better. We've even learned to fly as days go passing by. But what about the poor old prune? His life is only wetter. No wonder he can't grin in the awful stew he's in. No matter how young a prune may be, it's always full of wrinkles. We may get them on our face, prunes get them every place. Nothing ever worries them, their life's an open book. But no matter how young a prune may be, it has a worried look. Prunes act very kind, they say, when sickly people moan. But no matter how young a prune may be, it has a heart of stone.
And I bet we all feel as though our lives are that little bit richer now that we've heard the Prune Song by Frank Crummett.
They don't make them like that anymore.
I thought
They don't.
no.
They
And
don't sing songs about
I
vegetables.
think your show has the biggest tits.
You do?
But I think, Paul, your show has the biggest tits, isn't it?
Does it? Does it?
Yeah, it has the biggest hits.
Yes.
Tits. Yes.
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 Oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Oh,
It probably does.
see, I
What was
told
that
you it's
thing?
got the biggest tits. Yes.
Benny Hill used to. What was that thing he said? And now, here is Roy Orbison's musical bum. And the voice, music album.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
sorry.
yeah.
It's quite like that. Roy Orbison's musical
It's like,
bum.
it's like, you know.
No, music
yeah.
album. Yeah, it's just completely. I love all that naff stuff. Yeah, good stuff. By the way, I've been
Yes.
rather rude, not to you lot, but a couple of people called in and I was so busy gassing. I need another screen. Sorry about that. I've got to apologise to you. But guest 2 and guest 3 arrived in the call-in studio. I've just put it back up on the screen. So if you're still getting the urge, I'm looking at it now. So if anybody calls in, we'll bring you into the show if you want to have a chat or anything. The details are up on the screen on Rumble and YouTube, spinning across the top there. For best audio quality coming over the internet, if you want to do that. If you don't, we'll see you next week. But we're here for a little while longer. So any questions you have, particularly about the construction of lavatories and things, we'll hand those over to Eric. And everything else we can we'll discuss accordingly. But yeah, the Prune Song, they don't make them. What was that one that I played the other week? Oh yeah, it was. I know it was by Edwards, wasn't it? Remember? On your show the other night.
I remember that, yes.
Yeah, well, we might play that again.
That was it, yes.
It's another one about fruit as well. We've got all these songs about fruit and vegetables. They don't write them anymore about fruit and vegetables, and it's a pity, you know.
No.
It's a pity. It's very
What
sad.
about the one that Spike Milligan did?
Which
Do
one?
you remember the one that Spike Milligan did?
Which one was that?
One Eat More
Oh,
Fruit.
that one.
That was the Goons.
Oh, I've got that.
Yes.
I've got that. It's on top of my hits. Yeah. Eat
Yes.
more yes. Hang on. I wonder if I've got it.
Didn't the Beach Boys write a song about vegetables?
Yes.
Did they?
Not
I
that-
did.
Well, that's a while ago. Yeah, they did. They wrote a vegetable. Yeah, Eric, you know it. What's
Yeah.
it called? Vegetables?
I don't know.
That's
I can't
what it's
remember.
called, vegetables.
Because my sister used to buy all their albums. She liked the Beach Boys.
wrote.
And my dad called him something else.
What was
It
it?
wasn't
Boys
Beach.
wrote a song about Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon. Yeah, let's go, Brandon.
Did they? The
Biden.
Beach
Yeah.
Boys did. Are you sure?
Well, you just said that they wrote a song about vegetables.
Yeah, Joe Biden. Easy
yeah.
to make a comparison there.
They did.
Have I
then,
told you guys? Have I told you guys about a point of interest in the country? You can even find it on Google Maps. There's a push pin there. It's a historic site where the actual corner where Joe Biden wiped out on his bicycle. They've named that Brandon Falls. And it's right there on the map.
Is it really?
Yeah, I remember you telling them about this. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I like that. That's cool. That's good. Yeah.
Brandon
That's hilarious.
Falls.
You were talking about Benny Hill. Benny Hill, Boots Randolph was on the same label as Roy Orbison. Boots Randolph is the one that did the Yakety Sax intro to Benny Hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that
Just
song.
reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And did you know in America? I don't know what state. I'm very very serious here. There's a place called Wet Beaver Pass,
Oh, so
and
we're
I
past 10
think
o'clock
because-
now, so you're really going for it now,
Yes.
aren't you?
and it was on a calling show, and actually rang the tourist office of Wet Beaver Pass on a live television show. Who was it now? It's a comedian over here did it years ago. And hello's that Wet Beaver Pass. He found it very difficult to talk about it without bursting out laughing.
Really?
But,
Yeah.
Can't think why.
No.
Yes.
No, not at all.
It's kind of like Fuck 'em all.
It is.
It's the same type of humor there.
Yes. So that was interesting what you said, Paul, about the American Civil War. Very interesting. So really, I mean, the South, so I did hear, after the war, the women were raped. It was terrible. The Northern Army went straight through that. Is that true, or is that just a myth? I don't know.
Yeah, well,
No.
there was a general in the Union Army. His name was Hooker, and that's where we get the word hooker from to describe a whore. Is because
Really?
he supposedly liked them around camp, and that's hence where we get the name hooker from. It
Was there mass
I'm learning,
rapes
some,
in
I'm
the
learning
South?
some things tonight.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
we could talk about some of the wackiest names of American tourist locations now that Eric has let the open Pandora's box. As it were.
we
there's
ca-
Hell, Michigan.
Oh yeah, well, some of the American tourist locations with the wackiest names include Intercourse, Pennsylvania, Booger Hole, West Virginia, and Ding Dong, Texas.
Well,
Other
Intercourse-
noteworthy locations with unusual names are Cut and Shoot, Texas, Bangs, Texas, and Dinosaur, Colorado. Intercourse, Pennsylvania. This town in Lancaster County is known for its Amish population and unique name, which is rumored to stay an old road intersection or now defunct inn, according to a travel site. Booger
Well,
Hole, West Virginia.
Bugger hole.
Well,
I live
Booger
up the
Hole,
road.
West Virginia. This town is named for the secluded spot along the Little Kanawha River where settlers supposedly saw boogers or ghosts or spirits.
Oh, like a
Booger Hole.
boogeyman.
Yeah, just
Booger.
Well, not far from me, there's a place called Trotter's Bottom. Seriously. Up the road, Trotter's Bottom. Yeah.
Doesn't he want
It's
it
actually
back?
if you look it up, it's in Hertfordshire, actually. And it's a place near Potter's Bar called Trotter's Bottom. Yeah.
Wow.
And my father's parents, for a short time, lived in a place called Ugly. And it's one of the most prettiest little villages ever. But it's called Ugly. But the posh people call it Oogly. It's actually Ugly Green, yes. Oogly, yes.
I'm desperately trying to think of some funny and witty town and place names, but I can't think of any. No.
Well, there's a place called Ham, isn't there? And the Sandwich. There's a place called Sandwich, isn't there, in Kent? Is it Kent?
Yeah, Sandwich in Kent. There's a place in Yorkshire called Blubber Houses. Yeah. Blubber houses.
Really?
Yeah, we used to drive past it when we were going out on picnics with my mum and dad in the 60s and 70s. Oh, we're just going, it's like a hill, really. You'd call it a hill. It's quite a tough hill when you were on your bike, because when I got a bit older, I used to ride around there and stuff. But when I was really young, I thought, what are they doing dragging whales inland to cut all their blubber up? That's all I could think. I didn't understand.
That's what
why
I
don't
think
they do it in the
rendering
seaside?
plants.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. No, someone will know why. It'll be some other strange reason.
Though. You'd have to take the whales to a railway station first, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. Nitwit?
There is a Nitwit Ridge in California.
And Exo was born near Licky End.
Oh, good Lord.
Licky End. Yes. Yes. There is apparently a place up, a new estate, and they changed the name, and it was actually called No Sex Drive.
Oh, good Lord.
To satisfy my own curiosity, and before you get too lurid, although there's probably no holding you back now, I've just had to look up blubber houses. And it says this: it likely originates from the Anglo-Saxon term blubberhus, meaning houses by the bubbling stream, which is quite nice, isn't it? But it's not how blubber houses sound, because that's how they say, I'm just going up to blubber houses, and it's a bit, the poetry gets removed, but the idea of a house by a bubbling stream is really quite nice. Why can't they call it Bubbling Stream Town or something? Anyway, they didn't. They call it Blubberhouse. Not very interesting. In fact, rather tedious and dull. That. No vulgarity in it whatsoever. I'm sorry about that. It's a completely factual piece of information. So it looks as though that's where it came from.
I'm trying to think of strange Wisconsin names for towns. We've got a next door town. It's called Luck, Wisconsin.
Right.
So when they have a big signpost that says "You're in luck."
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk across you there, but Hereditous Skepfox said there's a place called Dick Lane in Bradford near Lemony Snicket. Dick Lane. And Exo says he's driven up Dick Lane many times. Really?
Right. Right.
Okay, we went to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, Herodotus, is there a place called Lemony Snicket, or have you made that up? Now we're getting into Ginnels. So I don't know and back passages and things like that. Down here, so I don't know if you got it in the States, but over here, because all the little villages we used to back up on one of the houses would be close, the back gardens, sometimes you'd have a pathway that everybody could share to come in to their house through the back gate. And they'd be like only 3 or 4 feet wide. And they're called different things in different parts of England. So there's a snicket is one of them. I think you've got that, don't you? Up a snicket. We've also got up north, they're called ginnels. A ginnel, which is obviously an Anglo-Saxon old thing. Down here in Sussex, this of course confusing, they call them a twitten. A twitten. I suppose it's because you've got to be a twit to waste your time. Have you got any unique names for back passages in your neck of the woods? I had to say that.
Yeah.
I just had to say that.
Gate.
Back gate.
The gate. Out back.
You made me think with these weird place names. There was down the road from me here, there was a bow and arrow shop, and it was owned by a fella named Richard Straight. So he called it Dick Straight's Arrow Shop.
Right.
So,
And
Okay.
I used to when I was a kid, there was a greengrocers called F Hall, F stop Hall,
Yeah.
and he had,
Have you got any
he had,
vegetables in? No.
paper
Well,
bags.
oh, you've got
with
F all
on
then.
them.
Yeah, right. Got it.
Yeah,
We're all out of vegetables.
yeah.
You guys keep it up. I've got one that'll actually get us booted off the air.
By me, probably. I'll be so embarrassed. I've never heard such atrocious smut.
Well, there's in Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis, about a half a block away from the old courthouse. I don't know if it's still there, but 40 years ago, there was an adult bookstore called Lickety Split.
Right.
And no, I never went in there.
And,
Just in case you're wondering.
and
Right.
there's a fish and chip shop in Bristol, on the outskirts of Bristol, called Cod Almighty.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's good. I love that.
Oh, and there's another one. He hasn't changed it, but there used to be a show with Jimmy Savile called Jim Will Fix It. And it's still
That's
the same.
unfortunate.
And you know those cement mixers that drive along the road, what they call them, ready mix things. And the company's called Jim Will Mix It. Yeah, it's a very
Right.
unfortunate name. Yes.
Oh, I think it's
But,
brilliant.
yes.
Okay. All right. Now I think
Well,
we're getting into a
the
weird area
Civil
here.
War, let's get back to the Civil War. I think
Okay, let's
Yeah,
do
I
that.
think it was about religion, ultimately.
Really?
What?
Like any of these things. They're about religion.
No, I don't
Really?
think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Well,
I
well,
think
well,
the
how
U.S. was smacked into wars that they couldn't afford. They borrowed money from England, and the other side borrowed money from France, but that came from England. And then when that debt became due and we couldn't pay it, they signed over the resources, the natural resources of the country, like the national parks and forests and things like that. They put those up as collateral, and then they didn't have anything else left to be able to fund the government. So what they did was they made serfs of all of the people. They securitized their birth certificates. They traded bonds on their future income, and they propped up the government and just kept on spending money that they hadn't made yet. And the Civil War was the war to bring in the Babylonian Merchant Code and the Roman civil law. So everything from that point went from republic to fascist democracy. We had a republic before that happened in 1933.
Yep.
When we switched to a democracy, I mean, the difference between a republic and a democracy is a republic works for the people, but a democracy is basically mob rule, which basically means a fox and a coyote and a rabbit vote what's for dinner.
Well, before the American
That's a good
Revolution,
one.
we had monarchies that controlled by proxy. You had the French and Indian War. If it had continued where the French had been dominant in that, we would have been under the French king, and after that, after the American Revolution, the French king was deposed. He had his head cut off. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could have happened but didn't, and the money system. I suppose under a monarchy you can better regulate that sort of thing, but because you have more control, I would imagine under a monarchy to say regulate usury, because it's the king. The king sets the law. He could say no interest on loans, more than a democracy where you have a big bureaucracy and you can't do anything. The condition we're in now is we can't do much of anything because it's such a huge mess that you have to go through to get anything changed. Any of these laws, what do you do? Say, for instance, to get rid of the Federal Reserve under the current system, you can't do it so easily, especially if you don't have the press. Because in a democracy, the press become the movers and shakers of things, because they get them. If you have a democracy, it's dependent on voters, and their beliefs, and what they believe is the best, governor of whatever place you're in. So when you have the press, the propaganda is a big deal. It's like in Edward Bernays, he wrote a book on propaganda back in the 20s, I think it was, or the teens or the 20s. And he was modeling what he was doing off of the Vatican's propaganda arm, which exists to this day. It's called Fides Agency. And they saw that as a threat to what they wanted to set up for the monetary system. So they came up with the Bernaysian, Freudian type propaganda system we have now that control all the ad agencies. I mean, it's a science. When you look at the ad agencies and what they try to promote and push, they look at demographics, and demographics determine what goes on in a democracy. Because as you find out, with the whole immigration thing, demographics set the tone, because if you've got all these people coming in, they can change things dramatically just by the amount of people that you can bring into a spot. I forget what's it called here, gerrymandering, where they set the boundaries. Boundaries. Yeah, that's. I think that was off of a Civil War.
Demography is destiny, or something like that, is another one, isn't it? And speaking of that, let me just. There's a thing I just to illustrate it with a point here. This is just crosses a few little things here. This is a post from Gareth Davies on Twitter. This is to do with the UK, just to give you an idea. Yet again, another money thing. Since 1997, he writes, over 12 million immigrants have entered Britain. I'll say that again. Since 1997, so in just under 30 years, over 12 million immigrants have entered Britain. I can't prove any of this, by the way. I'm just reading the post, so these numbers may not be exactly accurate. 80% of them remain firmly dependent on welfare. All right, it's about 9.5 million, 10 million. Total cost is £50,000 per person per annum for these people. This is a staggering amount of money. Yes, it is. Close to £500 billion a year. Hello? £500 billion a year. 120 billion on interest payments, and so on and so forth. Right? That's what's going on, if these numbers are correct. Even if they're a tenth of that, let's reduce it, make it a tenth. It means that it's costing 50 billion a year, plus 120 billion a year on interest payments. But there's no money for old people or for ex-soldiers to have a bed.
Well, it sounds like it'd be one thing if they were out plowing fields instead of collecting welfare. It might be a different story, but
it would be. But then English fields wouldn't look right with foreign people in them.
Probably not. But it's still,
it's
a different
they just all got to go.
Welfare.
Again, I always keep coming back to this, because my dad was, and they were around at the time, and everybody and that generation after World War II were never asked. This doesn't stand. Consent's never been given for this, ever. The English have never consented to this, and they're not consenting to it now.
Democracy.
Yeah. So they've all got to be remigrated. All of them. I'm just not in the slightest bit interested. Neither is anybody else. This is building up a head of steam, this remigration word. It's getting cool. And it's not because we dislike them. It's that they can't live in our home. You can't. I mean, if you think of that money, 500 billion, suppose they were all back at home. We could send it to them there.
Well,
why do we do that?
Look at where
Stay
they
at
all
home
come
and we'll send
from,
you
though.
500 billion pounds a year. You can have it. You can have 50 grand a year each for the next 10 years. Build your houses, live, but you can't live here. I'd rather be poor, broke, and without all sorts of things as long as I'm living with my own people. I'm quite serious.
Aren't the majority of them coming from Syria and places?
I think they'll take them from anywhere, Patrick. They don't care where they come from as long as they're not English.
The breakdown of the places in Syria is like the biggest of all the places into Europe, of all the migrants.
Yeah.
And what's going on in Syria right now? I mean, there's it's all chained together with what's going on with these wars and all of the impact that they have on Europe as a consequence. And it's like, and then the politicians, all they want to do is, oh, let's spend more money on our military. We need to spend more. That's like, these people are insane, because that's exactly what's happening. You end up having people on your doorstep that you had no expectation of ever seeing because of these politicians. And like you said, it's a dirty word, a politician. It's almost like a tax collector is a dirty word too. And I think Jesus said something about tax collectors and publicans that apply to that.
It's just obvious that there's rivers. There's rivers of money available to sort things out properly, but they're all being used to make it intentionally worse for everybody. And so that the idea of national spirit and the cohesiveness, it'd be better for those people as well. Those people that are here, it'd be way better for them. They'd be much happier. Why don't we just send them $500 billion a year? I'd much rather spend it on them staying at home. You can have it. Just send them the money there.
I don't think we'd have to do that. I love your idea. If we sent them $10,000 a year for 5 years to stay the hell out of the United States, to stay the hell out of Britain. I mean, they're all coming from economically depressed countries. That's why they're leaving those countries.
Yep.
They can't afford to live in those countries. That's why they're coming here. That's why they're going there.
I think
we
Michael
give them
Hudson.
$10,000 a year for 5 years. Stay the hell out. We can actually raise their level of living, their standard of living, leaps and bounds over what they could do themselves. They'd get a leg up and go on with life.
The problem
and all it
is
cost us was $50K.
Well, the problem is with these organizations like the World Bank and the IMF, they end up putting loans on these places, and then the people who have all of the stock are the rich people that get paid off on the interest because they're able to buy up the stock in these banks that give out the loans. And then they're, like Argentina, for instance, went bankrupt. It was quite a while ago. And they were paying like 46% interest on the loans to the IMF. And then they get taken over. That's why you have people like Malay going over to Schneerson's tomb and kissing the rear end of...
See, if we get rid of the bank first, so we get rid of the bank first, and then they can have 50 grand a year each. I don't mind. We do it for 5 years. You can't sort yourself out that way.
Get rid of the damn bank.
Oh, you just get rid of the bank, and we can sort it out. Yeah,
that's a good idea. Now, Patrick, I'm interested in your take on the American Civil War being about religion. I haven't heard that one before. So, what is your? I'm interested in what your take of it is.
You look into people like John Brown. John Brown was a radical abolitionist that wanted to radically, just go around killing slave owners and having slave revolts. Black army of former slaves going after all the slave masters, that sort of thing. Anti-Christian. Same with Abraham Lincoln. He wasn't a Christian. A lot of people like Thomas Paine, they were people who hated Christianity, and I would say that a lot of what happened there was a consequence of people who wanted to abolish the Christian way of doing things. Like, for instance, in Christianity, slavery isn't a thing that is forbidden. Like, Jesus talked about slaves and slave owners quite a lot. It's a value of labor that dictates a lot of how society operates. Whether you call it slavery or not, you're still in a form of slavery as we have it now. It's just we don't call it slavery, we call it something else. We call it
debt servitude.
Yeah, serfdom, wage slave, debt servitude. But we had leaders that were trying to make this into a Christian nation. Even though it didn't have a monarch, all of those things were fairly new concepts, getting rid of the monarchy, because when you're in Europe, it was filled with monarchy up until the 17th, 18th centuries. What happened was an abandoning of that, and that you look at, for instance, evolution, and Darwin came along during that time of the Civil War, and the whole notion of six-day creation went away in the way people looked at things. We even had a president, I think it was before Lincoln. He was the shortest president. I think he only was in for like a month. I forget his name now. I think Paul would know it, possibly. But he was really spouting how this was going to be, our country was originally founded as a Christian nation. But as a consequence of the Civil War and what took place in the emancipation, it became less about a Christian nation and more about what we have today, where we have, suffragettism. That's another thing, the women being liberated with feminism and that sort.
Yes.
It became more and more prevalent after the Civil War. And those things, all of the old Christian safeguards in society were abandoned for the new philosophies. Like I said, evolution is a really big one. Because if you believe we come from apes and the world's 1 million years old, then what does it matter what we do, really? Because it's just a drop in the bucket, and we're all going to become butterflies someday. So what's the point of even worrying? Just live for today.
If I may.
Yes.
Many of the things that have been instituted in the United States, and they were instituted socially and politically, and they were done for a purpose. Like, let's take, for example, the Prohibition. Prohibition was an action. It was caused by the women's leagues. The women applied pressure on government. The government caved, and they prohibited alcohol. The women's suffrage movement. Do you know what was behind that? There were too many women that were homemakers, that were at home, providing role models and nurturing care to the children, and teaching the children through homeschooling, and paying attention to keeping the family unit together while dad went off and worked. Well, somehow, some way, someone decided that there was an entire workforce available in the country that they weren't taxing because they had no individual income. So there went the women's suffrage movement and women's liberation, and get women into the workplace, put them in the factories when making weapons and tanks and artillery shells. And they had advertising campaigns where they had Betty the Bomb Maker or whatever. She was this buff, bicep, bulging woman of today, this modern woman that goes to work in the factory, and she's building America. You need to be like her. And the result of that was more taxes for them, more productivity from the populace, and less attention to the proper rearing and upkeep of the children.
Spot on.
Yeah, and Karl Marx was all about
exactly
that,
right.
getting rid of the family, and having communal wives and that sort of thing. You look at the Communist Manifesto; it's full of that kind of garbage, where they're breaking down the family, the Christian family.
The preschools and the public schools became surrogate parents.
Right. And that was like in Prussia and Germany, you had the Culture Kampf, where it was segregated before that time, where you had Catholic schools, you had Protestant schools, and they didn't have a public government-run public schooling system that was mandated. And as a consequence of Bismarck and the Culture Kampf that took place, they mandated through the Freemasons and the Jews and all these other groups that were revolutionaries, they mandated that you send your children to the government school, and that you can't bring with you your Bible your catechism and raise your child in your religion through the schooling, and you had to be taxed in order to provide for this orphanage of all your children that you provided,
Right.
the state, to groom them to be good workers, docile and obedient to their bosses, and it's what it became, and it's the revolution, the Industrial Revolution at the time that the Civil War took place with Marx. And
I
all
think
that
we've
kind of
had
stuff later.
we've had a little. I didn't Starmer a few days ago bang on a bit about making more money available for childcare or something. Have you heard that one, Eric? He's talking about this as some kind of
No, I haven't. No.
yeah, as if that this is an important thing.
Because
it just isn't. It's just not important.
Yeah.
No, and if you're
Yeah,
not,
but children are being brought up by strangers.
right.
That's the trouble. And I'm wondering whether that's another contributing factor of why we got such idiots in government. Because, I bet. Sorry, you should say.
Well, I was going to say that homeschooling is the only option that you have. None of these schools, even the private ones and the charter schools, are any good. And a homeschooled child that stays at home is more likely to be truthful in public than one that's been falsely indoctrinated in these schools to be peevish and not raise your voice when you see something wrong going on, because you've been conditioned to accept it and to do what the teacher says no matter what. Whereas in a family situation, it's more of a matter of the truth. Your mother cares about you. Your father cares about you. They're not going to let you out of their sight when they say there's danger about. Whereas these mothers and fathers are conditioned with these government schools to put them in harm's way potentially.
Yep.
And not care
It's
about them.
timidity training.
It's basically to create taxpayers of the future that are less trouble than the previous generation when it comes to all this kind of stuff. We had this thing over here, I mentioned it earlier, this thing that's happened at Glastonbury. I don't know if you've seen it. This African gentleman has been running around on the stage shouting his mouth off. Bob Villain. Is that his name?
Yeah, Bob Villain.
Bob Villain, right? Obviously, comical stuff from our perspective. I don't really care what he says, but the tragic thing was not him, to me. It was the crowd. The crowd were gone. You can see it, and I thought, I had the same sort of little shiver run through me that I had when I started seeing everybody instantaneously putting masks on because they'd been told to. This is such a swathe of conformist people, and the only way that they make themselves distinctive, it seems to me, is by covering themselves in tattoos and colouring their hair purple and putting studs through their head, and that's it. And it's tragic. There's no inner life with them. They don't have look, this is completely over the top, but the overall impression is of people that can't actually discern things much. If the crowd does it and it feels good, we'll do it. It's now got to such a ludicrous, almost childlike level, but childlike in the worst possible sense, i.e. there's a viciousness about it. And if they are going to be the people that are supposed to move into the middle management positions to manage the economic future of companies and businesses and organizations in this nation, we're already done for. I mean, because, if we look at the caliber of, not that they've got any, but the total absence of any caliber of quality within the people that are managing the nation right now at the helm, supposedly, it's already over. I mean, this is the thing about building teams. The most important thing is to have intelligent people around you. And the intelligence extends to emotional intelligence, and it also it extends to courage, and it extends to putting people right when you see that they're wrong, and being willing to be corrected and it's pointed out to you. Those qualities that you get, they come with maturity, and they don't come from getting some Mickey Mouse degree in cat juggling or whatever horse nonsense they picked up, and they're all going along. I mean, it's ridiculous. I know we were talking about the hippies earlier, and I accept absolutely that the CIA got involved in there really big time, particularly with the LSD and all that other stuff, anything to wreck it. But they did have a genuine concern, as far as I understand, because if you look at the student movement in France in the early 60s, it was highly almost militaristic. It was a militia. And they were really genuine, and they had to control that and deal with it in a different way. I think many of them said they were communists or whatever. So no doubt there'll be the hidden hand behind that as well. But the whole idea of youth rising up, it never happened before. So the reason it never happened before is that there weren't any agencies making it happen. It's just unnatural to go against your parents. It's not sound. And it leaves a disturbance in you. Whenever you've done that, I remember disagreeing with my dad over a couple of things, and then years later, I really regretted it. I thought it didn't matter whether I thought I was right or not. That's wrong what I did, and I apologized later on. But at the time, you're young sometimes, you shoot your mouth off. I did it on 2 occasions. I was mortified afterwards, and when I realized what I'd done, it's not that he couldn't handle himself. It's just that as I was growing up, I sometimes just said stupid things. And even now, there's a bit of me that regrets it, and it'll always be with me.
Monica and her family, Monica Schaefer, growing up thinking that she was, there to shame her parents for being so evil, for being Germans, type of deal.
Yeah,
it's a level of ignorance on the part of that. And the thing of the hippies that you were talking about, they were kind of the gatekeepers to keep an actual anti-war protest from gaining any foothold, because they wanted the war to continue. You had the CIA and the military drugging up these people in order to keep them from having any power.
Yeah.
To discredit them as much as possible from actually having an effective protest. And it was the same thing in the 50s with the hipster movement that took place then. I could go into that, but it's the same type of situation where you had these people that were against getting involved in wars, and that wanted the culture to be upright and just.
Yes.
And protesting when there's a need to protest, because there are times when you should protest what's going on, and people they get culled into indifference. And that's what these government schools are meant to do, is to cull these children into indifference about real politics, and get them obsessed with celebrities and musicians and these kind of folk heroes that we're supposed to look up to.
Oh, the celebrities, what's going to happen to them? It's so important, the celebrities. You're right. Yeah. I mean, I think the protest process, however, they've got that completely handled now as well. People marching and stuff, it's not worth it.
It's a science.
Well, you're just getting photographed and going into a database. Now they're using all the facial recognition stuff and everything. It's not an opposing worldview. It's that there's a small group of people who are prepared to abuse the goodwill of everybody else. They've been doing it for hundreds of years. Let's just call them Masons, because there's many of them in that. And I know most Masons are not bad. I understand all that kind of stuff, but at the top, it's not good.
You could say socialism. There's, to an extent, because it's like taking all the groups together and socializing. It's the multiculturalism.
It is. And these exhausting topics, I mean, we talk about them here, I suppose you get, well, at least it gives you something to talk about, but there could be so many better other things to talk about. If this weren't here, it's such a vexatious, almost bogus set of problems. They're not genuine. They're completely manufactured as weapons of war. Soft disruption is devastating. And that's we're a disrupted people, a distracted people. We were talking about the media earlier. Actually, I've got a little clip here. I want to play it. It's slightly off beam. No, it's not. It's only a couple of minutes long. You might have heard it before. Where is this? It's just about the power. It's this thing I've talked about, people getting distracted and stuff. This is called How the News Works. I don't know. This is how the news works.
Person. People. Person realizes people need...
Hey, people. What do you want? Some news? Yeah, some news. We want news. Some news, please.
Person gives people news.
The world is round. Wow. It's going to rain tomorrow. Wow. Less people are dying because technology is improving. Oh, wow, that's so cool. Bad things happen here and then, but oh my god. We have police to catch the bad guys, so it's okay. Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
The next day.
The news is still pretty much the same as yesterday. Oh, okay.
A few days later.
Yeah, the news is still the same. This is getting boring now. Yeah, this is getting boring.
A few more days later.
Anything interesting happen, or... Nah. I don't like the news anymore.
A wild news competitor appears.
Everybody, I have more news. Yay! Yay! Hurrah! Hooray! A man died yesterday. Oh no, that's so sad. Hey, you're stealing my audience by only telling them worst-case scenario stories which take advantage of a human cognitive bias. That means we naturally pay more attention to negative events. Screw you, pal.
The competition for attention begins.
Hey, some random celebrities that you don't care about are getting divorced.
Oh no, not the celebrities.
Dear. Hey everyone, the sun gives you cancer.
Why is this so entertaining?
Bacon gives you cancer. Terrorists, they're coming to get you. There's a virus spreading around the world. Nobody can do anything to stop it, and you're all going to die.
That's the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen, don't you think? Isn't that it?
It's all destruction.
It's all
It's all
distraction.
distraction and predictive programming, even the primetime TV shows. I've been watching a series called 911. And I forget what season it was in, either the third or fourth season. There was one episode, and in that one episode, they had this person that had a toothache, and she got some like Oragel tubes, like industrial-sized Oragel tubes, and she was using it to deaden the pain of her toothache. Well, she used like these 4 tubes in like a week, and then emptied one entire tube in her mouth so she could get some sleep because she was so sleep deprived. But the crux of the matter is she woke up blue, with blue skin from head to toe.
Right.
And then when they poked her in the arm to put the IV in, her blood was blue. And what did they do? They asked her, have you been using colloidal silver? A colloidal silver, they've been demonizing it because there was one guy that completely overdosed on it, used it topically and everything else, and it turned his skin blue-gray. So all they needed was one case. Oh, colloidal silver is very, very bad. It's very bad. It'll turn you blue. Stay away from it. So they asked, did you take this demon liquid that would have turned you blue? And when she said no, they reached for, they diagnosed it as a hemoglobin imbalance or whatever, and they reached out for methylene blue, which is a industrial fabric dye. And they injected 2 units of methylene blue into her veins, and lo and behold, it's a miracle. Less than a minute later, the skin returns to the normal color. Her blood is nice and red, and it's happy. Okay, in that one episode of predictive programming, they demonized colloidal silver, which has a 100-plus year track record of safety, and they promoted how miraculous methylene blue was. And that was within 5 minutes of the program. 5 minutes. And that stuff is being drilled into the subconscious of the people that are watching that program. My personal take is colloidal silver, absolutely nothing to be afraid of. It's a miracle. Methylene blue, there's way too many people saying, oh, this thing is the greatest thing since sliced bread, like Google and some of those sources. And there are a few doctors that are saying, oh, no, stay away from that stuff. It's extremely bad, extremely bad. These are incidentally doctors that no longer have licenses because they were taken away for telling the truth. And this is what what the public is being bombarded with daily. The nightly news, primetime television, even their entertainment is killing them. What are we going to do about it?
Read a book instead. That's what I think.
Good idea.
Yeah. Read more books. We need more books. More books and less TV, less distractions, and more time with other people.
It's a great maze that will never ever stop being great in scale and size. I think it's it's a challenge, really. The more you kind of look into things and acquire your first levels of knowledge, the more you get to that point of saying, oh gosh, there's so much more knowledge to find out. Am I qualified to understand myself? Do I need a qualification? I think half of the, if we look at all the medical stuff, it's very easy to get people going on it because the anxiety over being ill is a real one. People would prefer not to be. Although this is not a short-term solution, a long-term ingredient for reducing the amount of illness amongst people is obviously to return the food system back to its natural roots, which could be done, but there's no mention of this because it's all driven by markets. We need a more efficient farming system. I don't think we do, actually. I think we just need to make use of the resources that we've got. It's I think they've proven that supposedly organic, i.e. naturally grown stuff, which is what it was like before agrochemicals got pumped into the ground everywhere, properly managed can produce loads of stuff. I mean, the sort of the blights that they had on crops in the past were to do with weather. They used to have terrible weather in the 1800s. I remember I've just been watching an episode of Clarkson's Farm where they've had a terrible crop yield because of the colossal amount of rain that fell. I think it was last year, 2024, when they filmed it. But Clarkson was going through the record books to find out that in 1882 or something, it was even worse. There was nothing, They managed to survive and get through these things. It's just someone's always going to solve your problems, and it generally 9 times out of 10 turns out to be a protection racket. They induce anxiety, and of course, I don't know whether I've got enough time to find out medically how my own body works. Of course, I do. I continually am amazed how completely incompetent I am at understanding how parts of my body work. But I guess going back even a few hundred years, nobody ever opened one up except in battle to have a look inside. Why would you want to do that? You'd no way of actually stitching it back up again and making it work. So, I mean, I'm saying really rather silly things here, but even methylene blue, I hear what you say, Paul, but I remember seeing that interview with Jack Cruz, and he was talking about it, and maybe it's all come from him to some degree. I mean, he's a brain surgeon. They use it in brain surgery to stop the swelling of brains. After they've operated on brains, they tend to swell up, or will do, obviously, because they've just been fiddled around with. So they use a lot of methylene blue, or as much as necessary, to keep the swelling down. Because he's talking about, I remember he was talking about this operation he'd done, this girl who'd had her head beaten in, and he worked on her for 23 hours. It was an amazing anecdote that he tells, because it's completely true. I think he was in Chicago at the time, probably in his early 30s, and he pulled a 23-hour stretch solo with some assistance, saving her life. And it sounded unbelievable. And after he'd sort of refit her skull back together again, they left the top bit of the skull off because the brain was going to swell up. So they almost like covered it in cling film. And then she was sedated for weeks or days. And they used tons of methylene blue to reduce the swelling. And it's got certain positive qualities. But I suspect maybe these things in combination can produce disastrous events. They can.
Well, I'm not... Okay. I'm not saying that methylene blue is horribly bad. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm saying that using it like as a daily routine. I mean, just because Tylenol can get rid of a headache doesn't mean that you should adopt a practice of chewing 5 Tylenol a day for the rest of your life.
That's like ibuprofen. That can cause all sorts of problems. Like I heard,
it has.
Yeah.
I mean, all this stuff has a specific purpose. Fine, put some in your medicine cabinet. Hang on to it. You may need it someday. But don't do 20, 30, or 40 drops twice a day for the rest of your damn life. All it's going to do is turn your piss blue and your brain the same color.
Yep.
I think we have a trust problem in society in general. Just who do you trust? And it's kind of like you have to get your own house in order before you can order other people's houses. The same with like, it's like a plane, when the plane, the stewardess comes out and says, okay, if the cabin depressurizes, here's a mask that'll drop down, and put yours on first before you try helping anybody else, because if you zonk out, you're going to be useless to anybody else. It's kind of the way we have to look at things, is we have to get our own house in order before we can even give advice to other people.
Yeah, I guess we do. I mean, if you look at so many things that are ruled on by governments. They're all about concentrating power in the center. That's all it's about. So when we're talking about even, say, good food, the reason why we have many of the systems we have is that houses don't have big enough gardens to grow their own food, and they need them. And like every family should be trained in growing vegetables. My dad did. I don't, although we're taking the garden apart and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking I really should be growing food in this. And yet I don't. I feel sort of bone idle about it as well, which is just me. So I don't want to bore you all to tears about it. But I look at it and go, we could be growing quite a bit of food here. And then I'm looking at everybody that I live with going, I really need to get together with some other people because I need some energy back from other people. Someone else that only one other person being enthusiastic about it will make it happen. I think you can do a thing solo, but you'll burn out. You just do. That's my observation. You can't maintain it forever. You end up becoming the noble solo martyr. But
about that, Paul, is you gotta start with little things. Have little victories instead of realizing one big victory. You have a lot of little things that you can tackle, and they will become a bigger thing as you get in the habit. Because we're creatures of habit. Mm-hmm. We're not just going to be able to go out there and build a victory garden in one day. It's something that takes a long time, and it takes days of doing things. Little things like planting a seed every day. You'll have a big garden.
Yeah, I agree. We drink good water around here, and there's so many more things that I could do that would improve things. But we're doing better things now. You remember that scene in what's that Harrison Ford film where he gets isolated in that Amish community? Witness, is it, or something? I can't remember what it's called now. Do you remember that film?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it Witness?
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah. Witness.
I think he's been hunted by Danny Glover and these bent cops who want to kill him because he's witnessed something, and it's really quite interesting. He falls in love with whatever it is. One of the best scenes in the thing I remember about the film more than anything else is when they all get together to build a barn. Remember that barn building scene?
Yes.
And when I saw that,
those barns when they move forward.
Yeah, and I'm going,
the barn being moved.
Yeah, but I just wanted to join in. I wanted to be there. Can I? It's something about a small supportive team is massively more effective than doing a thing solo. You do have to start like that.
Many hands make light work.
They do. And it doesn't need to be that many, because then it gets bloated. They go, we'll organize this on a huge scale. No. It's okay. Little villages really work well. Of course, they don't now. Everybody's bitches and snipes about everybody else to some degree. But not always, and not in all places. I shouldn't be entirely negative. I've got good neighbours around me, and I keep thinking, well, maybe if we could get our act together. But I haven't put the word out yet. But because I'm clearing the garden, and our house is not a big house, but it sort of sits right in the middle. Everybody has to drive past we don't get passing traffic because there's just 5 or 6 houses around us where the cars go by. So it's very quiet here. We're in a nice little spot. And I'm looking at everybody's gardens going, if we just got organised and said, right, I'm beetroot, not that I'd be wanting anybody's beetroot, and your tomatoes and potatoes or whatever, we could probably produce quite a bit. And it is a bit of a la-la idea, and I'm saying it slightly ineffectually as if I'm not really convinced about it, and I'm not yet. I'm just trying to talk myself into it. But it definitely would be a better use of the land, and we would build a much happier little space for ourselves here. And it's those things. It's those sorts of things would help. And I view that as a little but very important thing. They're all important, really, if you can do it. Then you could say, well, we grow all our own food, and we get all our manure from this horse yard, and we're doing this, and the food tastes great, and my tomatoes taste good, and all that kind of stuff. Hey, look at that. We've come to the end of our time, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just crank that down a little. So, we did run for the whole 3 hours, and I was whinging about nothing at the beginning there. I want to thank everybody that's been commenting away like Billy O in Rumble and YouTube. Some great stuff. Some of it I should have read out. There's a good little comment about you, Paul. Warren Aparther says, well said, when you were talking about the taxation situation with women and getting them to pay tax. That's true. Also, homeschooling is superior to the school of fish systems, and doctors need to be hung. Well, I don't know if about all of them need to be, but I know what you mean. And
doctors have their place.
Yeah, Billy Silver says, all the people that are put in charge now were without doubt the absolute winkers at school. See what I did there? I'm sure it wasn't like that before. Probably not. Everyone, thanks very much for this week. We'll be back again same time next week. keep good. And we'll thank you, Paul. Thank you, Patrick. And thank you, Eric. Look forward to be... We got John Hamer on next week as a guest. I'll let everybody know. But John Hamer's coming on courtesy of Eric. So we've got an author on next week. We'll see you all then. Bye for now, everyone. Bye-bye.